Chapter 82. Quietly approaching. Quietly leaving. After Naruto put the fake scroll of the earth back into Hinata Ninji's ninja backpack, he left while humming a little song in his heart. But halfway through, he hesitated and came back, scattering some pollen around before leaving. This pollen was also obtained by Naruto in the Forest of Death, and it can emit a smell that humans can't smell. It can drive beasts, snatching your scroll of the earth and letting you sleep peacefully for a night. This deal is already very reliable in Naruto's view. With the scroll of the earth, Naruto's mission can be said to be completed. According to the original plan, now he can hide in the poisonous swamp, wait for the seal to be lifted, and then go to the destination with the team. But when he thought of Orochimaru, Naruto's heart was a little uneasy. I have to find a way to determine where Orochimaru is. 24 hours after the second exam. The poisonous swamp is full of fog, and the visibility is about 10 meters. Most of the trees growing here are dark, 5 meters thick, and about 10 meters high. The branches are long horizontally, and the head is big and the body is thick. From a distance, it looks like a group of short black fat people. In the middle of this group of short black fat people, there is a tree trunk with a circle of 3 meters wide drawn around the trunk. On the branch of this tree, there is a sleeping bag that looks like a cocoon. The sleeping bag is black and yellow, and the black and yellow is similar to the butt of a bee. At this time it is swinging in boredom. Why is there no news yet? Naruto, who was curled up in the sleeping bag, yawned in boredom. He actually woke up a few hours ago, but because he didn't receive any news from Nine Tails, he has been in a standby state. Because the next plan needs 9 tails. Another hour passed. Naruto fooled around in the sleeping bag, and just when he was about to coax himself to sleep, there was finally some movement in the space sealed by the 9-tailed beast. At the moment when the spiritual link was connected, Naruto felt his nerves tighten. It felt like a sudden tension, but then that feeling calmed down. Naruto tried calling out, "Teacher Nine Llamas?" There was no response. Naruto closed his eyes and tried to enter the sealed space of the 9 tails. It worked. Seeing this huge cage again, Naruto felt a comical sense of familiarity. Kyuubi was lying in the cage, snoring away in her sleep. Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs, "Teacher Nine Llamas!" Nine Tails' ears twitched, but he did not wake up. Naruto continued to roar. The so-called roar was to increase the intensity of one's mental strength. It was like vibrating one's vocal cords more forcefully if one wanted to shout louder. Under Naruto's perseverance, Nine Tails finally woke up. He opened his eyelids and said irritably, "What the hell are you yelling for? Can't you let me sleep?" Naruto's raging momentum subsided, and he smiled and said, "Well, I'm looking for you for an urgent matter." Nine Tails said angrily, "What's the matter?" Naruto said submissively, "You should be able to sense where Sannin's human pillar force is, right? I want you to help me find him." Nine Tails' eyelids finally opened completely, and he raised his head from his furry paws. He looked down at Naruto and said, "You want to take the initiative to look for Sannin's human pillar force? Didn't you say before that you wanted to avoid him as much as possible in this exam?" Naruto explained, "That was the original plan, but now I have a new idea. I want to use my love to help me find Orochimaru in this exam room. I remember that in the first exam, his third eye condensed out of sand, the eye of the sand, is quite good. It should be able to help me." Being in Naruto's body, Nine Tails was very clear about Naruto's original plan. He couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you already prepare for Orochimaru? I remember that you asked your doppelganger to help you pay attention, and once you meet Orochimaru, you will use the shadow clone technique to pass the news to you." Naruto nodded. The so-called letting the doppelganger use the shadow clone technique to pass the news is to let the doppelganger use the shadow clone technique again. The doppelganger will pass the news to the doppelganger, and then release the doppelganger. The doppelganger will be able to pass the news to Naruto, and all the doppelganger. This method has been confirmed and is feasible. In the same way, if Naruto knows the news of Orochimaru, he can also pass the news to the doppelganger through this method. Naruto. After a day, there is no news from the doppelganger. According to inference, Orochimaru should be here, but I still want to confirm it. If he is really here, I want to try to see if I can make some movements and make him out of the exam early. Make Orochimaru out of the exam early? Generally, those who can think of such a thing are either crazy or stupid. Which kind of person does Naruto belong to? He doesn't belong to either, he just likes to play all kinds of tricks. Ninetales became interested and asked, "How do you want to make Orochimaru out of the exam? I remember you told me last time that Orochimaru's strength is comparable to a Kageteer. With your current strength, it's not enough, right?" Naruto smiled and said, "Don't I still have you? I plan to let Sanen's my love fight with Orochimaru first. If it succeeds, it will definitely make a lot of noise, but if it fails, then I will have to do it myself. With your strength, I think even if he is Orochimaru, you should be able to deal with him, right? Besides, it's not like we have to defeat him, we just have to make a big noise and attract the attention of Woodleaf." Ninetales also wanted to ask how to do it, but on second thought, instead of asking, it's better to do it. Listening to a story is not as interesting as watching a live broadcast, so he changed his words and said, "So we have to find Sanen's human pillar force first, right?" Yes. Naruto nodded again and again. Ninetales, this is easy, you just have to release a little bit of my chakra, and Shikaku will definitely feel it, react, and even leak some of his power. At that time, I will know the exact location of human pillar force. Naruto hesitated when he heard this. Won't that expose my position? Ninetales pondered for a moment. Not necessarily, Shikaku won't necessarily tell this news to human pillar force. How about this, I will expose some of my power, and then immediately cut off the spiritual link with you. This way, it won't be able to feel my position. Cut off the spiritual link again? Naruto blinked. How will you tell me the news if the spiritual link is cut off? Naruto had the experience of cutting off the spiritual link once, so he knew very well that the so-called cutting off the spiritual link was sorry. Your friend has gone offline, please contact us later, sorry, omitted English version. Ninetales stared blankly, then he said wittily, then you can change your position first, and I will contact you again when you reach the new position. You can do that? Naruto frowned again. If you cut off the spiritual link as soon as you release your chakra, then who will perceive the other party's position? Ninetales was confused again. He thought for a moment. I won't cut off the spiritual link after perceiving the other party's position. Naruto continued to ask, if you cut off the spiritual link after perceiving the other party, then the other party will also sense you, right? Ninetales suddenly felt that his brain was a little slow, and then he flew into a rage. Why do you have so many questions? I am stronger than him, so naturally I can perceive him first, and by the time he finds me, I will have already cut off the spiritual link. No way. Ninetales suddenly flew into a rage out of humiliation. The innocent Naruto blinked. Okay, whatever you say, just tell me what to do, I will do it for you. Ninetales. Chapter 83. Naruto's temporary plan to expel Orochimaru began to be implemented. Ninetales' heart was beating like a drum. He should be able to close the spiritual link before Orochimaru sensed him, right? Ninetales' heart was somewhat uncertain. Naruto's heart was also beating like a drum, although he said that he would listen to Ninetales. But if he really went too far, it wouldn't be good should he stay in the poison fog swamp for 2 more days? Anyway, a day has passed, and there was no news from Orochimaru. It was inferred that 85% of Orochimaru wasn't in the West exam room. But if he didn't expel Orochimaru, then 3 days later, Orochimaru would definitely come out to cause trouble. At that time, it was inevitable that there would be an accident. This exam was related to the other secret scroll of ice release from the Sandaime-sama. The Snow Clan had been exterminated, and there were only a few people in the world who could use ice release except himself. The way to obtain ice release was even more uncertain. With his own experience of studying ice release, Naruto knew how important it was to have a detailed inheritance to guide the way. One was self-made, and the other was standing on the shoulders of giants. There was no comparison. So this ice release scroll must be obtained. Moreover, for this competition, he had made so many arrangements. If he suddenly screwed up, where would he put his face? Naruto took a deep breath and made up his mind. This Orochimaru, he must fight. Not only fight, but also fight to the death. Fight outside the exam room. He didn't care about the rest of the competition. But in this second exam, Orochimaru must fight. But the plan had to be changed. Naruto always felt that Ninetales was somewhat unreliable. According to Ninetales' method, he could find my love, but Shikaku inside my love's body could also find him. Ninetales' chakra overflowed from the cage. I'm ready. You can use my chakra. Are we going to take action now? Naruto quickly came up with a plan. Ninth Lama's sensei, I think it would be better if we go deeper into the poison fog swamp and use your chakra to attract Shikaku. At that time, even if Shikaku really tells my love the news, and they chase us to the poison fog swamp, they will be the ones to suffer. By the way, that human pillar force won't be immune to poison, right? Ninetales replied. Tailed beasts are more or less immune to most poisons, but human pillar force. Shikaku doesn't have that ability. Naruto heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. That way, if they come after us, even if they can't divert the trouble, they can still take care of Sannin's human pillar force. Ninetales wrinkled his nose and asked suspiciously, You don't trust me, do you? It was the truth, but Naruto didn't want to admit it. He said perfunctorily, How can I not trust Sensei? I suddenly thought of a plan to kill two birds with one stone. Ninetales nodded his head. Speaking of plans, you have a lot of ideas. Okay, let's go deeper into the poison fog swamp, and then we'll make our move. After saying this, Nine-Tailed Fox's heart also relaxed. He immediately felt the pressure in his heart lessen a lot. He really didn't have the confidence to perceive the other party, and not let the other party not perceive him. Naruto removed the weight on his body and ran at full speed for half an hour, before finally reaching the core of the poison fog swamp. The fog was even thicker, the visibility dropped from 10 meters to 5 meters, and the fog was faintly purple. Naruto immediately took out 3 to 5 half-blue and half-purple leaves from his pocket, and stuffed them into his mouth. Okay, Ninth Lama's sensei, we can begin. Ninetales' chakra overflowed from the cage and touched Naruto's body. With a thought, Naruto summoned Ninetales' chakra and released Ninetales' chakra outside his body. 1 second. Ninetales shouted. I sensed it. At the same time, in a desert 5 kilometers away from Naruto, my love's body suddenly stiffened, and then the sand uncontrollably gathered toward him. His right arm directly turned into a tailed beast, and his right eye became strange. It wasn't my love's pupil. The diamond-shaped eye was even more sinister than a snake's vertical pupil. At the same time, he let out a painful roar. Hanbao and Kankuro beside him were shocked and cried out anxiously. Why did he suddenly turn into a tailed beast at this time? My love, Sama. The voice was urgent, but the two of them stepped back at the same time. It could be seen that the two of them had an unforgettable fear of my love in this state. My love's head turned in the direction of the poison fog swamp, and his body uncontrollably took a step forward. 9. The voice was gloomy and hoarse. But before he could finish, my love's will suddenly erupted and seized control of the body, shouting, Go back! I didn't let you out! My love's body trembled, and the surrounding sand became restless. Hanbao and Kankuro stopped retreating and looked at my love nervously. 5 seconds later, my love finally calmed down completely. The yellow sand gathered on his body began to fall off, and he withdrew from the tailed beast state. Hanbao asked tentatively, My love, Sama, are you okay? My love didn't answer, got up and walked forward. Continue to look for teams that can get scrolls. The yellow sand gathered together to form a huge eyeball floating in the sky, and it looked a bit scary. In the poison fog swamp, Ninetales said, Don't worry, those two guys seem to have quarreled, and Shikaku can't communicate with him. Quarreled? My love and Shikaku? Naruto blinked. Then Ninetales then reported the distance and direction. Naruto entered the memory and looked at the map of test room 44. According to the data reported by Ninetales, he found the location. In the Windhill, right? He likes sand. Multiple shadow clone technique. A man and a woman, 2 clones wearing underwear appeared beside Naruto. Then Naruto took out the storage scroll, took out 2 sets of Sannin's equipment, and gave them to the 2 clones. 15 minutes later, At the edge of the wind hill, 3 ninjas of sand sneakily appeared. Then how to find footprints in the sand? It was impossible. The sand would move as soon as the wind blew. Walking here, the footprints would be smoothed out by the wind in just 5 or 6 seconds. At this time, Naruto began to miss Hinata. If Hinata was here, he wouldn't have to waste so much effort. Who couldn't find a supercilious look? 9 Llamas sensei, can you still feel Shikaka's chakra fluctuations? Ninetails didn't respond. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. He could still communicate with Ninetails a moment ago, so why didn't he reply? Then he sensed the sealed space of Ninetails. He confirmed one thing. The spiritual link was broken. Naruto's face was sluggish, and he cursed. Fuck. Wait. Naruto thought of a possibility. Why did Ninetails suddenly cut off the spiritual link? It was very likely. My love was nearby. First gate of Hashiman Tanku, open, open. After the first gate was opened, Naruto's hearing became stronger. He heard the sound of flowing sand behind him. The sound was louder and faster than the surrounding wind. And it was getting louder and louder, rushing towards him. Naruto didn't hesitate to push the 2 clones away, and at the same time he quickly retreated. The yellow sand rose and wrapped around Naruto's original position. Sand binding coffin. My love's method. Naruto turned around, but he didn't see my love, only a huge eyeball made of sand. My love's third eye. Sand eye. My love can see here. Then the yellow sand turned, and the yellow sand formed my love, appearing in front of Naruto. Sand clone. Sand clone. Good hiding, hand over the scroll. Otherwise die. I'm Sannin's ninja. I'm Sannin's ninja. Naruto restrained his thoughts of fighting with the other party, and told himself again and again that he was Sannin's ninja. Now is not the time to compare strength, it's the time to compare acting skills. Be possessed by the god of Oscar. Naruto raised his hand and made a harmless surrender. My love, Sama, I'm on your side, on your side. In the sealed space of 9 tails. 9 tails. Pft. Cutting the spiritual link into a one-way. I was ready to watch a good show, but you showed me this? Naruto quickly said after begging for mercy. Originally, we were lucky to find a scroll, but it was robbed by several ninjas from Kusagakure not long ago. Ninjas from Kusagakure? Who are they? No one else participated in this session except for Orochimaru's team. My love sand clone stared blankly at Naruto's Sannin's ninja. Robbed by others? Trash. Then what are you living for? As he said that, the yellow sand was about to sweep over. Naruto anxiously stared. My love is too crazy. I said I'm on your side. Attack or not? Attack him. Attack him to death. Chapter 84. Just when my love was about to make a move, there was a shout in the distance. My love! Stop. The sand palm stopped when it was only 1 meter away from Naruto. Naruto's kunai was filled with wind attribute chakra, ready to counterattack at any time. Now that the first gate of the 8 inner hidden gates was opened, Naruto believed that even a wind blade was enough to destroy my love's avatar in front of him. Hanbao's voice? The voice was very small. If the first gate hadn't been opened, Naruto wouldn't have heard it. It could be seen that it came from a very far place. The palm made of sand hesitated and moved forward slightly. Naruto was vigilant, and at the same time he looked at the direction of the sound. The location was also the edge of the wind hill, estimated to be 2 kilometers away. On a tall and bare poplar tree, Hanbao was standing there, looking at this side. This girl had good eyesight. Naruto asked himself if he hadn't opened the first gate of the 8 inner hidden gates and lifted the restrictions of the brain domain, and his vision was greatly enhanced, he wouldn't have been able to see so far away. But the sound was a bit small. Most of the sound was absorbed by the fluffy sand structure. Otherwise, with his current hearing, it shouldn't be so small. So should he fight or not? Let's wait and see if Hanbao can persuade my love. Where my love's avatar was. Hanbao tried to dissuade my love. Those people are ninjas of our village, right? You can't fight with the villagers. Kankuro didn't want to pay much attention to it, but when he heard that it was his own ninja, he quickly raised his head and looked in the direction of the sand eyeball. My love! Stop it. My love raised his head and looked at Kankuro with an expressionless face and cold eyes. You dare to tell me what to do? Hearing my love's reprimand, blue veins on Kankuro's forehead were exposed, and he said angrily, Enough is enough. My love. In any case, I'm still your brother. Can't you listen to me for once? My love glanced at Kankuro indifferently. I have never treated you as my family. No matter who you are, anyone who hinders me must die. My love and Kankuro looked at each other, and the atmosphere dropped to the freezing point. From the looks of it, they could turn against each other at any time and come to blows. Hanbao stood between the two and begged my love. My love, don't be like this. Don't be so heartless. Just take it as big sister begging you, okay? My love was silent for a moment, and his hands began to form seals. Hanbao thought something was going to happen to my love and shouted, My love! Kankuro was also frightened. Although he was very angry with my love, he was also very clear about the gap between him and my love. If Gaara made a move on him, just when both of them were extremely nervous. My love's doppelganger in front of Naruto turned back into sand, and at the same time, the big eyeball made of sand also scattered. My love shouted, Gather! The surrounding yellow sand rose, and a bigger eyeball appeared next to my love's main body, and it grew bigger and bigger, from the size of a fist to a giant eyeball more than 10 meters long. Then it kept rising until it was 100 meters high, and it spun around. It was very evil and very oppressive. After a while, it seemed to have locked onto a target, and the huge eyeball looked into the distance and stopped moving. Hanbao saw that my love didn't attack Kankuro, and also didn't kill the people in his village. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. My love, where are you going? My love said coldly. Kill people and take the scroll. Watching my love go away in front of his eyes, Naruto's head tilted to the right. That's it? I haven't even said the tens of thousands of words I prepared to smear the Kusanagi village. After a few minutes, Ninetales came online. That's it? Isn't this Sanin's human pillar force too easy to coax? Naruto's head stood up and looked up at the sky. Did I coax him? Ninetales. Then let's follow and watch the show. Naruto asked curiously. Can you still see when the spiritual link is broken? Ninetales explained. The mental link works both ways. If I'm completely cut off, I won't be able to feel anything outside. But if I'm cut off, the outside won't be able to feel me, but I can use your senses to see the outside. But in this case, my senses are very limited, and I can't even perceive the malice around me. Naruto continued to look at the sky. So you just cut it in half? Ninetales replied very cooperatively, yes. Naruto's expression suddenly became gloomy. Then why didn't you say before that the spiritual link can be cut in half? Ninetales, you didn't ask before. Naruto's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. In this way, whether Ninetales completely cut off the spiritual link or cut it in half, whether he's peeping or really closed his eyes, doesn't that mean he doesn't know anything? If that's the case and Hinata in the future. Hey Nine Llamas sensei, other than you, can't I take the initiative to cut off the spiritual link? Ninetales didn't know what Naruto was thinking in his head and replied, yes, as long as you learn to control your spiritual force. Naruto's gloomy face instantly turned bright. He quickly asked, is it difficult to learn? Ninetales replied, don't you have the spiritualization technique? The essence of spiritual force is provided by the soul. That technique can control your soul, and the control of spiritual force is also included. Spiritualization technique? The ninjutsu in the Forbidden Technique scroll. It was a soul-forbidden technique that could allow the soul to leave the body, travel regardless of distance, and kill the enemy. It turned out that the solution was right next to him. By the way, Nine Llamas sensei, can I imitate my love's third eye with water release and ice release? It looks very practical. Ninetales. That's also one of the uses of the spiritual link. It's just a small trick to connect your spiritual force with other objects and achieve visual sharing. Do you want to watch the show or not? They're already far away. Ninetales urged Naruto. Compared to doing homework for Naruto here, he wanted to watch the show more. Naruto replied, how do I see it? My love can sense you if you're close, But I can't see you if you're far away. Do you have a way to hide my aura and let me get close? Besides, there's also Orochimaru. If we're discovered, we'll be in big trouble. So let's go back and sleep. Ninetails was very unhappy when he heard that he couldn't watch the show. He had already sat up, but he crawled back and complained. It's because you're too weak. You can't even sneak in to watch the show. Naruto's mouth twitched when he heard this. I'm too weak. I'm sorry. Nine Llamas, Sensei, are there any invigilators following us? Ninetails yawned and said weakly, yes. Naruto raised his hand and touched his chin. Then we have to find a way to get rid of the invigilators. It's so troublesome. Are they cowhide plasters? I've already thrown them back and forth more than 10 times. Ninetails said bitterly. It's because you're too weak. Naruto. Chapter 85. I lost him. I lost him again. In the East exam hall, a ninja was lying on a towering tree. At this time, the branch beside him spoke. Huh? Aren't you the new invigilator number 23? The ninja called invigilator number 23 raised his head and looked at the talking branch. The branch blurred in front of him, and a ninja appeared on it. At the same time, the branch became a lot thinner. It can be seen that the ninja used transformation jutsu to become part of the branch. I lost him again. This is already the 18th time. Am I too lousy? The invigilator who was lying on the tree like a salted fish hung his head on the branch. The invigilator who changed from the branch was surprised. The 18th time? There is such a strong existence in this exam? Which village is this ninja from? The ninja who had turned into a salted fish said weakly. 3 Sannin kids. At this time, when the invigilator sitting on the branch was about to ask, the voice of the invigilator Mitarashi Red Bean suddenly came from the communicator. All invigilators stay away from the wind hill. I will say it again. All invigilators stay away from the wind hill. On the wind hill, my love's upper body was completely bijou, and the yellow sand was like the yellow river under the control of my love, entangling 2 people dressed as Kizagakure ninjas. Sandstorm funeral. The yellow sand was clenched, and the 2 people who were caught were like water balls. Boom. Blood splattered everywhere, and his bones cracked one after another. The man was already dead to the point where he couldn't be any more dead. Then the yellow sand mixed with a strong smell of blood chased the last Kizagakure ninja. Entanglement, contraction. Boom. A clay figure, substitution jutsu. At the same time, a pale hand suddenly stretched out from under my love's body, and the 5 claws opened to attack my love's abdomen. The fingertips of each of the 5 fingers had a chakra nature change. 5 elements seal. My love, who lost his mind, didn't notice it at all. But the sand sensed it and automatically protected my love, blocking the hand. The 5 element seal failed. My love's pair of demonic diamond-shaped eyes saw the person who launched the sneak attack. Both of his hands reached out to grab that person. At the same time, a sky full of yellow sand swept over, blocking all escape routes. Caught. Sandstorm funeral. Puh. The camouflage was removed, and the person in front of him changed his voice. 5 or 6 snakes scattered in the sand and slithered rapidly. Snake clone. Huangsha continued to chase after them. When there was nowhere to run, several snakes turned into smoke and disappeared. The ninja beast summoning technique was automatically lifted. Only one of the snakes was unable to dodge in time, and was killed by the yellow sand, leaving behind a corpse. In the dense forest in the distance, the ninja with the forehead protector of the Kusanagi village stuck out his long tongue and muttered to himself. Failed? As expected of the human pillar force, you're surprisingly strong. But for the sake of business, let's just ignore him for now. As he turned to leave, a few unusual sounds were heard. Someone was lying in ambush. The long snake had licked its lips. I smell a familiar scent. Red Bean, is that you? I didn't expect you to find out so quickly. West Exam Hall. Sasuke was setting up a trap with a group of ninjas. Most of them were wood-leaf ninjas over the years, and there was also a Sannin ninja. Compared to the East Exam Hall, the West Exam Hall was peaceful. In the distance, hidden in a big tree, 3 invigilators were playing cards. They were having a lot of fun, Kabuto Yakushi was also among these people, and he looked at Naruto from time to time. Sasuke came to Kabuto Yakushi's side and asked, "What's wrong?" Yakushi smiled embarrassedly. "Ah no, I'm just curious about Naruto's unusual quiet today." Sasuke frowned. "Naruto has always been quiet." Yakushi scratched his head and smiled. "Really? I remember when we were in the Ninja Academy, Naruto was very active." Sasuke looked at the laughing Yakushi and said, "Double Senpai is very concerned about Naruto?" Yakushi was stunned and waved his hand. "No, I remember that Naruto once used paint to paint Naruto rock. The current Naruto has changed a lot compared to that time. It seems that Naruto has grown into a trustworthy ninja. Well, I'm going to continue setting up traps. I haven't finished setting 30 traps for each person yet." After Yakushi left, Sasuke glanced at Naruto. Naruto was grinding something very seriously. He thought of Naruto's instructions in the scroll to be careful of this person. This person is indeed suspicious. His smile is too fake. Then he walked towards Naruto's doppelganger and asked, "What are you doing?" Naruto's doppelganger replied, "The juice of hellflower combined with snake rot grass will fuse into a temporarily stable venom. When it fuses with the juice of Lonling grass, the stability will be broken, and it will rapidly volatilize. It is a good poison." Sasuke hesitated. "You don't need to be so poisonous. It's not good to kill too many people." Naruto's doppelganger explained, "It's not used here. He told me that as long as I encounter a plant that can be fused into a poison, I should collect it, and if I can make a strong poison, I should make it directly and carry it with me in case of emergency." Sasuke. Looking at Naruto's doppelganger carefully grinding, Sasuke was at a loss. He found that he didn't know when it started, but Naruto's doppelganger knew more and more things, and his strength was getting stronger and stronger, so strong that he, who has the blood of the Uchiha clan, couldn't be proud in front of him. Would the current him be a match for him? He learned a new technique from Kakashi-sensei, and Kakashi-sensei said that even if he didn't pass the Chunin exam, he is already much stronger than the ordinary Chunin. But how can he compare to Naruto? How strong was his true strength now? In the mission of the Wave Country, Naruto solved the enemy by blowing up his doppelganger. And in the mission of the Water Country, Naruto also blew up his doppelganger. However, he has a hunch in his heart that Naruto's true strength is definitely not as simple as blowing up his doppelganger. This hunch is very strong. It is so strong that he doubts whether he is the opponent of the other party. There is also this doppelganger that can last for 3 days. This chakra is too much of a cheat. Naruto's doppelganger was seriously grinding the potion, while Sasuke stared at Naruto in a daze. The wind blew and the ends of their hair fluttered in the wind. On the green grass, under the dark green trees, the wind blew and the dandelion seeds flew with the wind. The bright and beautiful sunlight shone on the two of them. The scene between the two of them was fixed at this moment. This scene was seen by Hinata, who was paying attention to Naruto. "Sasuke." Hinata's voice rang out. Sasuke was slightly stunned and returned to his senses. Hinata walked over to the two of them and asked, "You two, what are you doing?" Sasuke turned around and replied, "Oh, I was looking at the potion that Naruto was concocting earlier and thought of something. I was a little stunned, so I went to check on the doppelganger." Sasuke was stunned when he saw Naruto concocting potions. "I was also stunned when I saw Naruto seriously concocting potions." Hinata looked at Sasuke's back as he left and felt somewhat worried. The reason why we were stunned can't be the same, right? Chapter 86. In this exam, Chunin must test Naruto's true strength, then defeat him. Otherwise, how can I, as an Avenger, live in this world? Looking at the ninjas who were busy setting up traps, Sasuke clenched his fist and secretly swore. At the same time in the East Exam Hall, in the poisonous fog forest, Naruto was learning spirit transformation jutsu in a sleeping bag with a black and yellow bee butt. However, the progress was not very good. In the Forbidden Technique Scroll's memory, there were many words about the soul that Naruto found a bit difficult to understand. Ninetales woke up and found that Naruto was still learning. He couldn't help but sigh. "Are you that thirsty for power?" Naruto casually replied. "No, I'm thirsty for the hominin sun." Ninetales was dumbfounded. The person who said those words without any sense of shame, and without any sense of shame was the person who said those words. It was the first time Ninetales saw such a person. Naruto was also stunned for a moment, then he recovered and asked Ninetales, "What did you ask me just now?" Ninetales despised. "I didn't ask anything, it's just that you accidentally revealed your thoughts just now." Naruto blinked his eyes, he didn't remember what he said. Then he shook his head indifferently and continued to study spirit transformation jutsu in the memory. While studying the scroll in the memory, he said to Ninetales, "Nine Lamas sensei, I have an idea. If I learn how to establish a spiritual link, then I can apply this to my doppelganger. This way, I can see what my doppelganger sees at the same time, so I can keep in touch with my doppelganger in real time, whether it's distributing tasks or fighting, it will be very useful. For example, in this exam, if I can keep in touch with my doppelganger, then a lot of things won't be as troublesome as before." Ninetales praised. "Oh, not bad. You're starting to learn to think about how to modify ninjutsu, so you're not far from creating ninjutsu." Naruto laughed at himself. "I'm just going to integrate a little trick into the original ninjutsu. It's not as powerful as Sensei said." Ninetales. Integrating techniques is the development of ninjutsu. The so-called ninjutsu is the integration of chakra's various techniques. I'm not exaggerating at all. Is that so? Then wouldn't his B points be on par with the second-generation Naruto? Chunin's second exam. The final destination of the candidates was the second floor of the tower in the middle of the exam venue. There were 3 monitors and a long sofa. It looked like a surveillance room. At this moment, the head examiner for the second exam, Red Bean Mitarai, was sitting on a sofa. Her clothes were half open, revealing the 3 sigils on her shoulders that resembled the shape of a triangle. Third Naruto and a group of invigilators stood around. Invigilator. Is Lord Naruto's examination still continuing? Third Naruto calmly said. The examination still continues, but pay close attention to Orochimaru's movements. Mitarai Red Bean touched the hot sigils and cursed in a low voice. Damn it! Third Naruto wore Naruto's robe, and wore Naruto's exclusive bamboo hat. His voice was a bit hoarse as he asked with concern. How do you feel? Does the sigils still hurt? Mitarai Red Bean pulled up her clothes. It doesn't hurt anymore. Thank you very much, I feel much better. Behind the sofa where Mitarai Red Bean was sitting, a ninja with spiky hair and a bandage on his face and nose said, Speaking of which, Orochimaru is one of the Sannin in Woodleaf legend. Even the Ambu don't dare to touch him. His name is also on the S-rank wanted list, but didn't they say he died? The ninja beside him agreed. That's right. Why did he appear now? Red Bean recalled what Orochimaru had said to her when she was fighting against him. The Orochimaru in her memories. I really want to obtain that child, because he's an Uchiha. Mitarai Red Bean. Perhaps? She was somewhat hesitant and didn't know whether she should say it or not. At the end of the day, Orochimaru was her former teacher. It was just that, did their relationship as master and disciple still exist? If not, Orochimaru clearly had the ability to kill her. But instead, he let her go. While Mitarai Red Bean was hesitating, Third Naruto spoke up for Mitarai Red Bean. Perhaps it's because of Sasuke. Mitarai Red Bean was shocked and couldn't believe her ears. She reflexively asked, What? How did Third Naruto-sama know about this? Someone in the East Exam area's Poison Fog Forest howled. Ah, I failed again. Naruto sat cross-legged in his sleeping bag and attempted his first out-of-body experience according to the scroll's instructions. But he failed. This was already the 58th time. Naruto's expression was somewhat dejected. He muttered to himself, This secret soul technique doesn't have any cultivation restrictions. Why can't I succeed? The 58th failure caused Naruto to despair and want to cry in the space sealed by the nine-tailed beast. The nine-tailed beast opened its eyes slightly and said lazily, Maybe your soul is too strong. Too powerful? Naruto reviewed the main points of cultivation in his memories, but didn't find any requirements for the soul's strength. On the contrary, there was a method to nurture the soul in the scroll. Wasn't it supposed to make the soul stronger? Could he have remembered incorrectly? Naruto entered the memory again to check the forbidden technique scroll in the memory. He didn't remember incorrectly. Was Nine Tails trying to trick him? Teacher Nine Llamas? Why do you say that a too powerful soul is the reason for failure? Nine Tails replied lazily. If you throw an apple into the sewer, can it be flushed down? Throw an apple into the sewer. Naruto's subconscious reaction was that it depended on the size of the apple. But Nine Tails probably wouldn't bother with him if he answered like that. Wait. Size. The big apple couldn't be flushed out of the sewer. Was it because his soul was too powerful? Then Teacher Nine Llamas, what should I do? The first out-of-body experience didn't have any lethality. It was just the opening of the acupoints. It was considered a condition for the following cultivation. It was also a test of aptitude. If one couldn't even open the acupoints and let the soul leave the body, there was no need to cultivate anymore. This was what was recorded in the scroll. It was a preface. However, Nine Tails said, that's easy. Just cultivate in reverse for a while. Cultivate in reverse? Naruto blinked his eyes, full of confusion and doubt. He asked uncertainly, how do I cultivate in reverse? Nine Tails yawned, as if he was too lazy to explain. He lay in the cage, closed his eyes, found a comfortable position and fell asleep. Naruto's consciousness entered Nine Tails' sealed space and stared blankly at Nine Tails in the cage. He didn't know if he should wake this guy up. Soon, Nine Tails' breathing became more even and relaxed. So fast. Naruto blinked his eyes that had turned into beady eyes. He was pretending to be asleep. He was definitely pretending to be asleep. He was definitely pretending to be asleep. Naruto had 10,000 curses in his heart, but he didn't know if he should say them. But in the end he didn't wake Nine Tails. He should respect his teacher. In fact, what Naruto muttered in his heart was, you can never wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Then Naruto looked at the forbidden technique scroll again. Although he had memorized the things recorded in it, Naruto still liked to read it this way. He felt that looking at it from an outsider's point of view allowed him to discover things that he couldn't find through his memories. Cultivate in reverse. The last step of cultivation was to condense the soul. Huh? Nine Tails wanted him to condense the soul first? That was feasible. Naruto was overjoyed. His consciousness entered the sealed space and bowed to Nine Tails. He said respectfully, thank you, Teacher Nine Llamas, for clearing my doubts. Nine Tails continued to sleep with even breaths. Naruto grinned and withdrew his consciousness from Nine Tails' sealed space. After Naruto left, Nine Tails opened his eyes, rolled his eyes, and went back to sleep. Nine Tails said, idiot. Chapter 87. The third day of Chunon's exam. On the 72nd hour of the exam, the barrier between the East and West exam halls was lifted. A stone flew across the river and hit a tree on the other side. It bounced back and fell into the river. Splash. A ripple appeared in the river. At the same time, everyone on the river bank felt the same. Can't cross the river? Who will cross first? After the surprise, it was the anxiety of making a choice. The people hiding in the woods by the river were hesitating. Among them, only one person didn't hesitate. The yellow sand flew up and carried a person. He ignored everyone and flew across the river. He had red hair and a sand gourd. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and straightened his back. He was domineering. Beside him, there were two people, a man and a woman. However, these two people didn't get the treatment of being dragged by the yellow sand. They waded through the river and stepped on the water surface. Someone crossed the river. Can't cross? Hinata Ninji didn't move. Instead, he rolled his eyes and stared at a place with a complicated expression. Tian saw Hinata Ninji's strange expression and asked, what's wrong? Is there something wrong? Hinata Ninji frowned and thought. At the same time, my love, who had crossed the river, was also staring at a place in a daze. It was a row of words carved on a tree. Is there anyone who wants to talk back to me? I'll wait for you at the Moon Lake in the West Exam Hall. The Moon Lake is in the middle of the West Exam Hall. It's easy to find. Vortex Naruto. Who is Vortex Naruto? I'm the one who will eliminate you trash in the first exam. Trash, it's fine that you're out of the game. But Hokage-sama actually added a resurrection game for you. It's really a waste of time. Come and find me, I'll teach you trash a lesson. Your grandfather, Vortex Naruto. On the river bank in the West Exam Hall, there were many trees with such words carved on them. There was one every 5 meters. Together, their imposing manner was vast and mighty, just like a unique scenery. The person who carved these words was not Naruto, nor was it Sasuke, nor was it Hinata. Instead, they were a bunch of people who had been bribed with heaven scrolls. It took them 3 days to carve every tree that was 10 kilometers long by the river. The amount of work required was something rarely seen in the past examinations. The effect of his provocation was naturally outstanding. Vortex Naruto, I will let you die happily. My love's face was gloomy. With a wave of his hand, the yellow sand swept up, wiping out the entire forest. The strength of his attacks and the magnitude of his anger were obvious. Hinata Ninji took a deep breath, trying to get enough oxygen to save his brain from exploding. Let's go to the Moon Lake. Shaoli blinked. Where is Moon Lake? Tian was puzzled. Hinata Ninji took a deep breath. You'll know when you cross the river. When Hinata Ninji led the two of them across the river, Shaoli and Tian looked at a tree. They were so agitated that they started vibrating. That was a sign of him suppressing his anger. Tian touched the huge scroll on his back. It was 1 meter long and 30 centimeters in diameter. I'm going to kill him. Hinata Ninji was still rational. Don't be too impulsive. I saw that many trees on the river bank have words carved on them. He couldn't have done it alone. Tian gritted his teeth. That's because you don't know that he knows Shadow Clone Jutsu. Hinata Ninji was stunned. He knows Shadow Clone Jutsu? How did you know? Tian's eyes were already spitting fire. I learned it from the medical ninja crash course organized by Sandame Naruto. Thinking of the crash course in medical ninja, Tian's impulse to kill was even stronger. After all, they were classmates for a month. That was a class with only 5 people. They were classmates for a month. They should have more or less considered the friendship between classmates. But what did that damn Naruto do? It was fine if he was in the limelight in class. You're strong, you're awesome. My medical ninja talent can't compare. But Chunin, you made things difficult for me in the first round of the exam. When it came to the second round, I wanted to forget about it. Anyway, I passed the first round. But you, Naruto, you and I are irreconcilable. Tian's roar encouraged Shaoli. Shaoli stared at Tian with his round eyes and said seriously, Tian, don't worry. If I meet him, I will definitely avenge you. There were many similar scenes on the riverbank of the West Exam Hall. For example, Sakura Haruno pressed her hand on the tree trunk with the words engraved on it. Chakra gathered in her hand and scratched a long mark. Naruto, just you wait. Tooth Inuzuka's dog echoed. Woof. Shino Yomi didn't say anything. However, the densely packed parasites were affected by Shino Yomi's emotions and started to come out of his body as if they were going to swarm out. For example, Ino, who was in vibrating mode, turned her neck toward Shikamaru and said, let's join hands and destroy him. We'll destroy the dignity of the Ino-Shikicho combination. The calmest one was Shikamaru. He crossed his hands behind his head and muttered to himself. Although those words are harsh, they are not. Shikamaru originally wanted to say that he was not wrong. However, when he saw Ino's twisted face, Shikamaru had a premonition that if he were to continue, he would attract a huge amount of trouble. Thus, he quickly changed his words and condensed all his words into one word. He nodded his head firmly and said, fine. Akimichi Dingji. At that moment, he was gnawing on a tree branch. He didn't have any snacks, so he couldn't help but use a tree branch as a substitute. At any rate, it would appear that he had gone crazy. After crossing the river, the 4 teams offended by Naruto rushed to Moon Lake like they were injected with chicken blood. Behind them, in the shadows of the forest, a man stretched out his snake head and licked his lips. He muttered to himself, Moon Lake? This Naruto, interesting. While most of them were thinking about Naruto, achoo. Naruto, who was disguised as a Sannin ninja, suddenly sneezed. This sneeze was very loud. It nearly caused Naruto to do a somersault. Someone must be talking about me behind my back. Bad words. If Naruto knew how miserably he had been slandered this time, he would definitely change the word bad to curse. Moreover, it would be a vicious curse, not good. His position was exposed. Naruto realized that he had sneezed too loudly. He immediately sped up and the weight on his body was removed. His entire body was like a monkey in the sky. With a so sound he flew far away. In order to increase his speed, Naruto opened the first gate of the 8 inner hidden gates. 10 seconds later, a stupefied and flustered Invigilator number 23 suddenly appeared. The sound I heard came from this direction? How did it disappear so quickly? This is already the 21st time I have lost him. Invigilator number 23 felt that he was incompetent and his heart was stifled. There are traces. He ran this way. A very conspicuous trace, a trace that was not covered in the slightest. Invigilator number 23 was very excited. He was about to give chase when he stopped. He muttered to himself. That Sanin brat has always been very careful. The traces he leaves behind are always very difficult to find. Why is the trace so obvious this time? Could it be a trap? There must be a trap. Invigilator number 23 placed his hands on his waist. He had an expression that said, I have already guessed your plot. Then, he found a direction where there were no traces and chased after him. All right. I can confirm that this Invigilator number 23 has been played to death. Chapter 88. Naruto successfully crossed the river. The area where he crossed the river was covered in fallen trees and yellow sand. This was most likely the work of my love. What an easily angered and explosive fellow. The thought flashed through Naruto's mind. He did not linger and leaped over the fallen forest, heading straight for the west examination area. If Naruto was more attentive, he would have noticed that on a fallen tree trunk near him, there were a few familiar words engraved on the side facing away from him. I am your grandfather, Vortex Naruto. That way, he could more or less understand why the 4 teams hated him so much in the near future. He could also be prepared. Naruto quickly moved through the forest. Whenever he encountered a wild beast, he would only face it and then disappear in a flash. According to Naruto's plan, he needed to find a secluded place to hide. Then he would wait for the doppelganger with Sasuke and Hinata to disappear and transmit their location to him. Or if it was convenient, the two of them could come and find him. Whoosh! Naruto leaped over a large bamboo forest. The bamboo forest was empty. No matter how he looked at it, it was not a good place to hide. Thus, Naruto did not stop until he saw a big tree. A big tree grew in the middle of the bamboo forest and was surrounded by the bamboo forest. The tree was very big. Although all the trees in the examination area were not small, this tree was especially big. Naruto estimated that this tree was at least a few hundred years older. Of course, it could also be due to the difference in species. Banyan tree? Somewhat similar, but not exactly. Naruto observed for a bit and confirmed that there was no record of a complete match in the plant dictionary. It could also be a mutation. Because of chakra, there were many mutated species in this world, be it animals or plants. It was even happening every day. Naruto stood in the shadow of the tree and looked up at the big tree that covered the sky. There were all kinds of birds chirping in the tree. Coupled with the sound of leaves rustling, it naturally formed a unique symphony of nature. Naruto took a few steps forward, but the ground beneath his feet was empty, and he disappeared from the ground in the next moment. The sudden change made Naruto immediately get ready for battle. Chakra covered his whole body, ready to turn into ice to protect himself at any time. But when he landed on the ground, he found that there was no danger. It was just a cave. Naruto's eyes lit up. This seems like a good hiding place. Then Naruto used shadow clone technique and ordered his clones to jump out of the tree hole and clean up his tracks. Then, he disguised himself and ran to other places. 5 minutes later, he automatically dismissed the clones. After the avatar left, Naruto leaned against the cave wall in relief. This cave was very dry and suitable for him to rest. He had been running at full speed with the first door open for 10 minutes. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't tired. Gurgle gurgle. Was he hungry? Naruto was very sure that it wasn't his stomach. Could it be that the sound came from inside the cave? Inside this cave, there wouldn't be any dangerous creatures, right? Naruto found the map and checked it in his memory, confirming that this place was called Green Bamboo Forest. Naruto nodded. On the way here, there was indeed a bamboo forest growing outside this big tree. However, in his memory, there were no terrible creatures nearby, only a kind of poisonous snake called green bamboo snake, as thick as a pinky finger. Could this be a snake cave? Thinking of snakes, Naruto was a little scared because he couldn't help but think of Orochimaru. Multiple shadow clone technique. A clone appeared and replaced Naruto to go into the cave. After a while, the clone dismissed and sent back the news. It wasn't a snake cave. In the memory sent by the clone, there were 3 little bears. And this bear, Naruto also knew it was a giant panda. This was a national treasure, and he actually encountered it here. Naruto walked in with interest. When the 3 bear cubs saw Naruto, they blinked their eyes cutely, sniffed their noses, and then their stomachs growled as if saying that the babies were hungry. So cute. My girlish heart is growing. To be honest, Naruto had the idea of raising a giant panda a long time ago. Just when Naruto was thinking about whether to steal the panda. Outside the Moon Lake in the West Exam Hall, 3 ninjas of Audiobook lurked on a big tree, observing the movements of the Moon Lake. Kodochue, the only woman in the Audiobook team, had straight black hair that reached her heels. She was a standard beauty with long black hair. She was wearing an olive sleeveless top and gray camouflage ninja pants with black flowers. At this time, she was standing on a towering tree trunk and said to Torres, whose face was bandaged and only his left eye was exposed, "How long do we have to wait here? It's been 2 days since the last ambush. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid we won't be able to complete the task given to us by Sama." Torres bent his body, his hands hanging down, and looked at the Moon Lake in the distance like a turtle. He said, "Don't worry, we have already figured out their movements in the past 2 days. They want to ambush those guys in the East Exam Hall. We can take advantage of this opportunity to fish in troubled waters." Kodochue raised her eyebrows. "It's good that you're not afraid to make a move." At this moment, a person with spiky hair and wearing a beige one-piece suit with the word death written on it, whether it was blood or red dye, mocked. "Afraid? It's just a group of mobs. What's there to be afraid of? Against me, a single Zanpakuto can kill most of them. A single Zanpakuto, I'm afraid no one will survive." With that, the man raised his hand and looked at the wind cave on his palm with a confident grin on his face. In his opinion, as the person chosen by Orochimaru-sama, he was much stronger than the other clowns in this exam. There was no one who could resist him. 500 meters away from the 3 of them, 3 sneaky people were circling around them and quietly leaving. These 3 people were Naruto's clone Sasuke and Hinata. Hinata opened the Byakugan to lead the way, and the entire Forest of Death can be said to be unimpeded. At this time, the 3 people's clothes were not their original clothes, but a very simple camouflage ninja suit. Hinata whispered to Sasuke while hurrying, "What about the 3 Audiobook ninja?" Sasuke looked at Naruto's clone and asked, "How long can you hold on?" Naruto's clone replied, "This one has only 10 minutes left, and the other 3 in the camp can hold on for half an hour." Clone in the camp. Thinking of the clone in the camp, Sasuke felt an unspeakable pain in his stomach. Originally, he planned to secretly evacuate the camp with the 3 people. However, the clone told him that there was no hurry, and the main body said that when he evacuated, if chakra still had enough, he could create 3 clones and use transformation jutsu to disguise as the 3 people. The original clothes of the 3 people were changed at that time, and now the 3 clones are wearing them. Hearing about the 3 clones in the camp, Hinata's face suddenly turned red. She remembered the scene when Naruto's clone transformed into her, wearing only her underwear. At that moment, Hinata was so embarrassed. And later, she changed Naruto's clone into her own clothes. Whoa! So embarrassing. Hinata easily slipped away when she was shy. Not only did she hear a loud bang, Hinata hit a tree. Sasuke's mouth twitched. What is Hinata thinking? Slipping away again. Hinata lied. "I thought that if Do-senpai finds out that we are no longer here, he will be very angry. I feel that Do-senpai is a very good person. Do-senpai. Sasuke touched his chin. Naruto said that he is not a good person, don't worry about him. Well, I will ask Naruto when I meet him, but I also think that this person is a bit problematic. A bit problematic? Hinata patted her buttocks and stood up from the ground, thinking that there is indeed a bit of a problem. Do-senpai also likes to look at Naruto-kun in a daze. Thinking of this, Hinata secretly glanced at Sasuke. Chapter 89. In the second round of the Chunin exam, the first team to arrive was Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, and Hinata. The first floor of the tower was empty. Naruto opened the door to a hall. There was no one there, but the words written by Sandaime Naruto on the wall were still very eye-catching. From right to left, it was written vertically. If there is no heaven, then be wise and prepare for an opportunity. If there is no earth, then pursue the origin for profit. Open the heaven and earth scrolls, and the dangerous path will return to the right path. This is the pinnacle of _____. It is a talent for leadership. The third generation. Hinata silently read it and asked, is this asking us to open the heaven and earth scrolls? Naruto took out the scroll of earth from his body. Sasuke also took out the scroll of heaven at the same time. The scroll unfolded. It was densely engraved with runes around the character, human, in the middle. At first, there was no movement, but then chakra's fluctuation appeared. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other, and threw the scroll in their hands at the same time. Boom. Then a ninja appeared, an Umbu ninja wearing a mask. A long-haired woman with pink and purple hair. Shouldn't it be Iruka who appeared? Naruto was slightly taken aback. This development was somewhat different from the development of the original world. But looking at the pink and purple hair, Naruto vaguely guessed the identity of the other party. Moonlight Rush's fiancé, Yugao Hashirama. The Umbu ninja spoke. How did you get the scroll of earth? Her voice was cold and full of a murderous aura. Rather than a question, it was better to say that she was questioning. Naruto obviously didn't buy this tone. He replied, why do you ask? What will happen if I don't answer? The Umbu ninja replied indifferently, I've been following you in secret since the second day of the exam, and I've almost grasped your movements, but the scroll of earth appeared almost out of thin air. If you don't answer, then I'll have to test your means. I'm very curious to see what kind of skills you guys have. You guys have relied on your little tricks all the way here. You've barely made a move. Hinata and Sasuke looked at Naruto at the same time. The way Sasuke and Hinata communicated with Naruto was to take advantage of the moment when the doppelganger used the shadow doppelganger technique again to blend in with the doppelganger. Then, the doppelganger would disappear, leaving behind the doppelganger. From an outsider's point of view, they couldn't see any scheme at all. Every time Naruto went to the store manager's house, he used this method to deceive the Umbu ninjas who were following him. Every time Naruto stayed at the store manager's house, he would send a clone back to the original house to pretend to be sleeping. The reason was that Naruto didn't like to be followed. Chakra was also a lot, so he was willful. Then give it a try. I refuse to answer your question. With that, Naruto's right hand pressed on his left fist. Chakra's ice nature change was ready, and this time he was going to use his full strength. Sasuke gathered the thunder attribute chakra in his hand, and arcs of electricity began to flow, and he used Chidori, which showed that the opposite female ninja gave Sasuke a lot of pressure. Seeing this, Hinata didn't hesitate, opened the Byakugan, and used the 8 trigrams 64 palms. The Umbu ninja with pink and purple hair reached for the sword on her back. At the critical moment, suddenly, a sleepy voice came from the door. You guys are really as messing around as always. It was Kakashi's voice. The Umbu ninja's hand froze in the air, and she looked for the voice. At the door, Kakashi put his hands in his pockets, and his silver hair was as handsome as usual. The mask covered most of his face, and the forehead protector was slanted, only showing his right eye. The Umbu ninja took back her hand and bowed to Kakashi. Captain. As a former boss, she knew the real horror of that man, so she didn't dare to have any neglect. On the contrary, Naruto didn't buy it, and said with a look of disgust, I thought I could test the skills of the Umbu ninja, and the atmosphere was ready, but you interrupted. The blue veins on Kakashi's forehead bulged, but he endured it. As the first team to complete the task, Naruto's performance this time still made him proud. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Save your strength for the next exam. Kakashi walked closer and looked at the person who was still bowing. Get up, I'm not your captain now. The Umbu ninja got up. Kakashi asked. Shouldn't it be Chunin? How did the Umbu ninja get involved? The Umbu ninja replied. Because of the secret, I can't tell you. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Not bad, I thought you would reveal one or two because of my former identity. The Umbu ninja respectfully said. If that's the case, I will be punished by you. Kaka curled his lips, but because of the mask his expression was not very real. Kakashi pointed to the inscription of the third Naruto on the wall and said to Naruto, Have you seen this? Naruto nodded. Yes. Kakashi lazily said. What are you doing here? Let's go to another place and wait for the other candidates. Then Naruto and the other two were taken to a lounge. Kakashi said. In the 2 days after the end of the exam, I will spend here with you. It's not bad here, food and accommodation are provided. Food and accommodation are provided? Food and accommodation are provided. Naruto's eyes suddenly lit up as he looked around the lounge. A shared living room that looked like a conference room, 1 big and 3 small bedrooms, a bathroom, no kitchen, and a small balcony with a view of the outside. Overall, the specifications are very good. Well, if there are 2 rooms, Kakashi and Sasuke, me and Hinata, that would be even better. Naruto imagined it himself. At the same time, when Naruto's team arrived at the destination, the exam was also in progress outside. My love came to the Moon Lake. Traps? There was almost no chance to appear under the crushing of the yellow sand. Naruto, come out! With a loud shout, the birds and beasts scattered. In the temporary tent, Naruto's clone was still standing strong. Pocket came in from the outside. A very strong enemy is coming. Naruto's clone looked at Pocket with a smile and said, Senior Pocket, let's go and take a look together. Go together? Pocket was a little hesitant. Naruto looked at Pocket with a smile. For a moment, there was a trace of doubt in Pocket's heart. Could it be that Naruto began to doubt himself? Pocket subconsciously pushed down his glasses. Okay, let's go and take a look together. Naruto's clone smiled even more brightly. Naruto's clone turned into Sasuke and said to Naruto, I can't hold on any longer. Naruto's clone raised his hand and pressed on the shoulder of Sasuke, passed a little chakra over and said, It's almost done, hold on a little longer. Pocket glanced at the 2 people with their arms around each other's shoulders. He had some doubts in his heart and motioned the other 2 followers to follow. At this time Naruto shouted, I'm here. This was the most time-saving way. Pocket's left eyelid twitched. He had a bad feeling. But Naruto was so calm. He should be prepared. Pocket's 2 followers looked at Pocket with a questioning look in their eyes. Pocket shook his head, meaning to hold back first. Soon, my love appeared in front of Naruto with a ferocious face. Very good. Let me send you to your death. With both hands raised, the yellow sand rose from all directions, surrounding Naruto. The scene was spectacular. Pocket turned to Naruto and said, If you have any means, it's best to use it now, or it will be too late. Naruto smiled. Sasuke smiled. Hinata smiled. Pocket forcibly controlled the expression on his face, but his heart roared. What are you laughing at? Chapter 90. The yellow sand pressed from all directions, and the sky closed first. At this point, there was no retreat at all. And because Orochimaru had attacked my love underground, this time, my love didn't even fall to the ground. A layer of yellow sand covered the entire ground, and it was impossible to escape underground. At this time, Naruto was still smiling, Sasuke was smiling, and Hinata was also smiling. Kabuto and the other 2 people couldn't laugh at all. The yellow sand contracted quickly, like a big hand suddenly clenching. Naruto suddenly said to Sasuke and Hinata, I don't want to be crushed. Sasuke seconded. Hinata seconded. When the yellow sand was about to crush in front of his eyes, Naruto nodded and said, "Then record until now." As he said, he printed with one hand. Sasuke printed with one hand. Hinata printed with one hand. Release. Before leaving, Naruto also waved to Kabuto and said goodbye. Bang bang bang. The three doppelgangers disappeared. Kabuto couldn't pretend anymore. He knew that he had been cheated. Bastard. His eyes were already cracking, and his hands quickly printed with one hand. The yellow sand closed. It was clenched into a ball. Looking from the outside, the ball rotated rapidly, like a meat grinder. When the yellow sand dispersed, only blood was left, and the bones had long been gone. My love stood on the sand pillar, and his anger calmed down. He said indifferently, "This is the price." Kankuro and Hanbao rushed over and shouted, "My love!" The quicksand gathered to my love, and soon formed a sand gourd behind my love. The yellow sand in my love's hand turned into a cork and blocked the sand gourd. He said calmly, "I just killed a few insignificant people. Go to the final assembly point and end this stupid exam." Kankuro and Hanbao breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that my love would kill, which would affect their mission. After my love left, the Umbu ninja wearing an animal mask in the dark said, "Fortunately, things are not out of control. Well, the order is to not affect the exam as much as possible, but in this case, we don't have to come out. But it's a bit unexpected. The candidates of this session are a bit unusual." But it has nothing to do with us." Then, the Umbu ninja hiding in the dark disappeared as if he had never appeared. After a long time, the ground shook, and the head of a giant python emerged from the ground. There was a person's face was Kabuto. At this moment, his face was so twisted that it looked like he was going to devour someone with every breath he took. "Naruto, I will not let you. Kabuto, come out of the snake's snake." Then, the giant python turned into smoke and disappeared. Yo, you look a little pathetic. Are the other two dead?" Kabuto's expression solidified, looking for the voice. The person leaning against the trunk was sticking out his long tongue and looking at him with a playful look. "This person is Orochimaru." Kabuto was about to say something, but Orochimaru made a seal with one hand, and then with a bang he disappeared. "It's a shadow clone. Orochimaru-sama also came?" Kabuto's fist hit the sand and roared, "Bastard!" At the same time, 500 meters away from here, the three members of Hinata Ninji's team were crouching in the bushes. After a while, Hinata Ninji lifted his eyes and said, "Let's go and finish this exam." Tian asked, "What about Naruto? Don't you want to teach him a lesson?" Hinata Ninji turned back and said with a blank expression, "That guy is dead." "Naruto is dead? How could this be? I just wanted to teach that guy a lesson." Tian's body was frozen in place. After all, they had been classmates for a month. He couldn't help but feel a little lost. Lee Locke's expression was also a little dignified, but he and Naruto have no intersection. His expression didn't change as much as Tian's. Hinata Ninji said, "Ninjas are a group of people who are accompanied by death. I think he should have been prepared to die, otherwise he wouldn't have signed the life and death contract." At the same time, on the other side, Ino Yamanaka's face also turned white. A bird circled over Ino Yamanaka's head, and then flew away. Just now, Ino Yamanaka controlled the bird to watch the live broadcast. Shikamaru raised his eyebrows and asked, "Looking at your face, did something bad happen?" Ino Yamanaka raised her head, and there was some confusion in her eyes. "Naruto, he's dead." Silence. After a while, Shikamaru changed the topic. "The two scrolls of heaven and earth have been obtained during the chaos just now. Let's go and end this exam." On the other side, Sakura Haruno stared at Shinoyomi and asked, "How is it? Did you find anything?" A parasite flew back and landed on Shinoyomi's fingertips. Shinoyomi adjusted his round black sunglasses and said, "Naruto is dead." In an instant, a teardrop flowed from Sakura Haruno's eyes. What did you say?" "Shinoyomi." Akamaru rubbed Sakura Haruno with his head. "Whoa." Sakura Haruno's expression was a little dull. "Naruto is dead?" Tears flowed drop by drop. Memories of the past surfaced in his mind. In her memory, Naruto was the person she hated the most. She had always liked Sasuke, but Naruto always came between them and caused trouble. At that time, her biggest wish was that Naruto would leave school after school and never come back. In that way, the progress of her and Sasuke's feelings will definitely grow like bamboo shoots after the rain. But after hearing that Naruto really left, how could he be so cunning? How could he die so easily? Shinoyomi sighed. Let's go and turn in the mission. The news of Naruto's death was like a cloud of worry, shrouding the hearts of those who knew him. But this cloud of worry was destined to not shroud him for too long. Naruto, who was living happily, was laughing in the room. But then a sneeze suddenly made him tumble. Sasuke looked over. Hinata looked over. Kakashi looked over with his dead fish eyes. Kakashi raised his eyebrows. Did someone tell you that your sudden crazy laughter is very demonic? Naruto took the tissue from Hinata and blew his nose. He replied, Sorry, the doppelganger in the examination hall just sent me a happy scene. Naruto couldn't control himself when he thought of Medicine Master Do's expression at the end. Then he laughed again. This time he curled up on the sofa and laughed like a prawn. Kakashi's curiosity was piqued. When Naruto finally stopped laughing, he asked, Tell me. Was he going to tell Kakashi that he might have caused Medicine Master Do's death? How? Medicine Master Do's identity as a spy hadn't been exposed yet, and he didn't have any evidence in his hands, saying it would only cause trouble for himself. Therefore he suddenly said seriously, It's nothing. What F*** King nothing? Kakashi's face darkened. He hated people who didn't finish their words. ZZ, electric arcs danced. Naruto's lightning-resistant ice release had been practiced to perfection, and an ice wall appeared in front of him. Sasuke on the side was deep in thought. His intuition told him that it should be related to Medicine Master Do. Sasuke looked at Naruto and thought, Naruto probably knows something that others don't. At this time, Hinata looked at Sasuke, who was looking at Naruto, and her heart was full of worry. First floor. The second team to reach the end of the second exam was Sanin My Love, Kankuro, and Hanbao. Chapter 91. My Love's team had arrived. Soon, a wood-leaf ninja informed Sanin's teacher, Baki, who had been waiting in the lounge for a long time. Baki, 188 centimeters tall, dark red skin, wearing a sandproof hat on his head. A curtain hung down on the left side of the sandproof hat, blocking the left half of his face. The right half of his face was painted with 2 red hook-shaped oil paint. Let's go, follow me to the lounge. The 4 of them then went to the 4th floor, where Woodleaf specially prepared a place for Sanin to rest. After entering the room and closing the door, Baki said, I've been resting in this room before. I've investigated this room and set up a perception barrier. Now you can begin to report the progress of your mission. According to my observation, the way the Woodleaf Ninja looked at you just now is not quite right. Baki's voice became cold. Looking at My Love's 3. My Love, you won't be exposed, right? My Love was silent. Baki's face was gloomy. The key to the success of this mission depends on you. Your exposure will make Woodleaf start to be vigilant. My Love. Baki sighed. It seems that the fact that you are the human pillar force is most likely exposed, so we can only pause. Just continue with your mission, Yizichin said. Suddenly, a person came into the room. Baki was startled and immediately went into battle mode. Looking at the voice, he knew the person. Orochimaru? Orochimaru laughed. Don't be so surprised for me. Woodleaf is no different from no defense. Orochimaru looked at My Love and said, You are very good. With you this mission can indeed go smoothly. My Love also stared at the person who came in. Although his face changed, his intuition told him that he had seen this man before, Snake. My Love remembered the scene in the Forest of Death. The person who suddenly attacked him from the ground was blocked by the sand, and then disappeared. Snake clone. Orochimaru. It was the person in front of him. Orochimaru laughed. You recognized it? 2 of my useless subordinates died in your hands. However, I'm not here to blame you. On the contrary, I admire you. Alright, that's all for the visit. Orochimaru turned his gaze to Baki. You should know that this is one of the few opportunities for Sanin And it can even be said that it's the last opportunity, because Sanin and Woodleaf are allies, and in recent years, you have begun to issue missions to Woodleaf, right? And using this as a reason to cut your funds, if this goes on. Sanin's position as one of the 5 great shinobi villages is nothing more than a joke. You should be very clear about this, especially in this generation of Woodleaf. There are many outstanding seedlings. When they grow up, you will have even less hope. Moreover, the task your Kazekage gave you is for you to complete, if you shrink back halfway. That will depend on whether you can retreat or not. After that, Orochimaru left, just like when he came, leaving no trace. Kankuro looked in the direction of Orochimaru's departure, with cold sweat on his forehead. Who is this person? Hanbao also looked at Baki and my love. Baki couldn't relax for a long time, and smiled bitterly. He is the leader of Otogekyure, Orochimaru once, the disciple of Sandaime Naruto, one of the legendary Woodleaf Sannin. Even Kazekage-sama said that he was not confident enough to defeat him. Mission. Continue. You continue to take the exam. I will pass this news to Kazekage. Outside the room, a white snake wrapped around the windowsill, then flashed away. At the same time, the third team arrived in the hall. Hinata Ningji, Lee Locke and Tian Tian. Soon they saw the inscription of Sandaime Naruto on the wall. They took out the 2 scrolls of heaven and earth. Unfold. The heaven scroll was unmistakably a scroll around the character, human, and full of runes. After the earth scroll was unfolded, it was blank. It seems that you didn't pass the exam. A Woodleaf ninja appeared in front of the 3. He wasn't summoned by the scroll, but walked out by himself. And he didn't wear a mask, his hair was standing up, and there was a bandage wrapped around his nose. Woodleaf Chunin, Steel Sun Tai. At this time, they were yawning, looking like they just woke up. You have 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, opening the heaven scroll alone will trigger Genjutsu. And then, I will let you rest until the end of the exam. Genjutsu? Hinata Ningji felt that he could still be saved, and immediately used Byakugan to prepare to resist the Genjutsu. Seeing this, Steel Sun Tai's face twitched, and he secretly thought that he had a bad mouth. 10, he advised. Even if you don't get affected by the Genjutsu, it's useless. You only got the heaven scroll. The earth scroll is obviously fake. Plop. Lee Locke softly kneeled on the ground, looking like a tricolored meatball on the ground. 8. Hyuga Niji stared at the blank scroll of the earth, full of unwillingness. How could the scroll of the earth be fake? This scroll was clearly found by him using Byakugan. Unless it was replaced by someone else. 6. 5. Wait! Tian Tian suddenly came back to his senses, and suddenly reached into his pocket to search. 4. 3. Tian Tian grabbed a scroll and immediately opened it. The character, human, was written on the scroll, and there were runes around it. The runes between the 2 scrolls resonated, and in the next moment, Steel Sun Tai disappeared from the spot, and then was summoned by the scroll, and reappeared in front of Ningji and the others. Steel Sun Tai stared at the few of them in a daze. His eyelids twitched. Are you kidding me? Hinata Ningji looked at Tian Tian. Tian Tian explained. I accidentally found this scroll, and then I carried it with me. Lee Locke, who had fallen to the ground and was waiting to be revived, was reinvigorated. He hugged Tian Tian's thigh, and was so excited that he was about to cry. However, no matter how excited he was, it was not a reason to harass a woman. Soon Lee Locke was sent flying by Tian Tian's roundhouse kick. Hinata Ningji looked at Steel Sun Tai. Do we pass now? Steel Sun Tai sighed. Okay, I'll count you as passing. At this moment, a green man flew in from outside, baring his big white teeth. He flipped and jumped, and shouted in an unpleasant voice. Youth should be more prepared. Tian Tian, you did well this time. It was an old man with a melon head covering and eyebrows twice as thick as Shaoli's. The person who came was Metke. His appearance could be said to have blinded Steel Sun Tai's titanium dog eyes. Let's go, I'll take you to the youthful lounge. I've already tried the bed. It's very good. Guy gave a thumbs up and smiled brightly. Then he left with the group of people in a grandiose manner. Steel Sun Tai stared blankly at the slogan written by Sandame Naruto on the wall. His lines were cut off before he could even finish reciting them. He still had to explain Sandame Naruto's slogan. So sad. This was undoubtedly a fatal blow to the little guy, who didn't have many lines. Mekkei brought the few of them to the third floor, where the woodleaf ninjas were resting. As he walked, he said with some regret, "Although your performance was not bad, Kakashi's team beat you to it. Sigh. I can't accept it. I lost to that guy again this time." Kakashi's team? Hinata Ninji suddenly stopped. The team's deaths shouldn't count as completing the mission. The mission manual we received said that 3 people had to arrive at the destination at the same time with the Heaven and Earth scroll. Moreover, 2 of them died. Mekkei was stunned. Who died? I just saw Kakashi bring 3 people upstairs. What? Tion's eyes lit up. Naruto didn't die? Without waiting for Mekkei to speak, Naruto stared at Tion from the corridor on the 3rd floor like a dead fish and said, "Has your hatred for me advanced to the point that you want me dead?" Chapter 92. Naruto. Tion stared at Naruto with a pair of beautiful eyes. Naruto had Kakashi's standard version of dead fish eyes. After looking at each other for a long time, Naruto felt that the atmosphere was a bit wrong. Could it be that Tion was interested in him? Naruto saw a trace of tears in Tion's eyes. However, the next moment, Tion's right hand pressed on her left wrist, which was the gauntlet that stored the shuriken. The next moment, she summoned the crazy shuriken. Go to hell. With that, the crazy shuriken swung over. Naruto was scared because the order given by the main body was not allowed to attack anyone. As a result, the next moment, the crazy shuriken was inserted in his head and disappeared with a bang. Is it a clone? Hinata Ninji looked slightly stunned and figured out what happened when he saw Naruto die. At that time, it was most likely a shadow clone. Naruto. You're pissing me off. Get out of here. You're always against me. Today I'm going to kill you. Tion's shout shook the entire building, causing it to tremble a few times. In Sanon's lounge on the 4th floor, my love frowned. I seem to have heard the name of a dead person. Hanbao and Kankuro looked at each other. Baki was strengthening the perception barrier. The sudden appearance of Orochimaru just now had a big impact on him, and he realized that his protective measures were not enough. Looking back at them, he asked, "What's wrong?" My love's sand gourd stopper turned into quicksand and was flowing out. Baki scolded. No matter what happens, no one is allowed to make any mistakes before the official exam. Especially you. My love. My love hesitated a little. And then the yellow sand rolled back and returned to the sand gourd. But it also left a bloody smell in the room. It was the smell of my love's sand. At the same time, Naruto also received news that he had met Tion the moment his doppelganger exploded. He was stunned and mumbled, "Why are they here?" Then he asked Kakashi, "Teacher Kakashi, will the people who failed to make the cut also be arranged in the lounge?" Kakashi's real dead fish eyes came over. Failed. You won't get any benefits if you fail. Does that mean Ninji's team didn't fail the selection? Naruto stood up and said, "I'll go take a look." As soon as the door was pushed open, Naruto pushed out Tion, who was about to smash the door. Naruto. You. Tion almost fell to the ground after being scolded by the door. His anger soared again. Naruto hurriedly smiled apologetically and apologized. I'm sorry. You guys passed the exam too? Your team isn't bad. In the end, he was met with 3 pairs of angry eyes. No, one should be called indifferent. That person was Hinata Ninji. There was another person with fiery eyes who was leaning on the door frame and looking inside. He shouted, "Kakashi, are you inside? Aren't you going to invite me in? Let's celebrate that both classes passed the exam." Kakashi dragged his tired body out and glared at Naruto, who had caused him trouble again. Then he said to Mekkei, "It's too early to celebrate. The exam hasn't been announced yet. Besides, there are still official exams later." Mekkei said smugly, "For my class, advancing to Chunin is definitely not a problem." He was really an optimist beyond imagination. While Kakashi and Guy were chatting at the door, another team came in. Kurenai led Sakura Haruno, Tooth Inuzuka, and Shino Yomi. When they met, Sakura Haruno looked at Naruto in disbelief. Naruto, you're still alive? Naruto's mouth twitched and his face darkened. You all seem to want me to die. Sakura Haruno panicked and explained. No, Shino said you died. Sakura Haruno turned to look at Shino. Shino also looked at Naruto. Naruto waved his hand and said, I know, that should be my clone. Then another team came in. When they met, they said the same thing. Naruto, you're still alive? This person was Ino Yamanaka. Naruto took a deep breath and sighed. I'm sorry that I'm still alive. Ino Yamanaka reacted quickly. Then what I saw was a clone, right? Naruto nodded. Ino Yamanaka jumped up and clapped. That's great, is Sasuke okay? Then, without waiting for Naruto to reply, she looked into the room. Sasuke-kun. Naruto. When he was fine, he immediately thought of Sasuke. Then he suddenly thought of Sasuke-kun's Sakura Haruno. For a moment, the scene was very chaotic. But Naruto was more concerned about how Ninji's team passed the exam. Could it be that they found out that the scroll was fake? That's right, Hinata Ninji has the Byakugan. He can tell that there's something wrong with the scroll. Naruto looked at Hinata Ninji, his future brother-in-law. And Lilac. Hinata Ninji's indifferent expression was full of arrogance. I will settle the score for the first exam and the river bank. Lilac's eyes were also burning with the flames of war. He said, and me, Naruto, what the hell is the river bank account? At the mention of the river bank, Naruto realized that the others suddenly stopped chatting and looked at him. Being stared at by everyone with murderous eyes, Naruto felt uncomfortable. He looked around and wondered, what's with the river bank account? Sasuke and Hinata, who were halfway out of the house, both stopped. Then, without hesitation, they immediately made a 180-degree turn and went back into the house. Then Sasuke peeled an apple, and Hinata played with her fingers. Naruto had a hunch. There must be something fishy going on. Just as he was trying to figure it out, the broadcast suddenly sounded. All teams, please pay attention. All teams, please pay attention. After final confirmation, all teams that meet the requirements have arrived at their destination. After final confirmation, all teams that meet the requirements have arrived at their destination. The second round of Chunin's exam has ended. The second round of Chunin's exam has ended. The 6 teams that passed the exam, please gather at the third venue immediately. The 6 teams that passed the exam, please gather at the third venue immediately. The broadcast stopped. Naruto was taken aback. 6 teams? Of the 4 present, he predicted that my love and the others must have also passed. So, the other one is, the 3 from Otogekyure or Yakushi Kabuto. Naruto turned around and asked Sasuke and Hinata, who came out. You didn't deal with the 3 from Otogekyure? Sasuke said with a straight face, they escaped faster, and we didn't have time. Naruto carefully recalled that there were a lot of memories in the past 3 days, including the encounter with Otogekyure ninja. Otogekyure's people did find them, but when they saw that they had many allies, they retreated. However, since the 6th team is Otogekyure, it proves that Yakushi Kabuto and the others were indeed tricked by him. Thinking of this, Naruto's mood was still very good. Kakashi said, let's go to the third venue. It's estimated that Sandame Naruto, Sama will lecture us again. Guy suddenly hugged Kakashi's shoulder and said, my team will never lose to your team in the official competition. Then he turned back and shouted at his team, isn't that right? Shaoli inexplicably burned. Victory. Then the master and apprentice posed together. Youth! It's a battle. Hinata Ninji and Tian next to them looked like they didn't know them and shyly avoided them. It is said that 3 women make a play, and these 2 thick eyebrows put together are a play Kakashi's dead fish eyes. Naruto's Kakashi's high imitation dead fish eyes. Sasuke was silent seriously. Hinata? Hinata is looking at the master and apprentice, and she looks very interested. Naruto immediately took Hinata's hand and pulled Hinata aside to prevent Hinata from being poisoned by the master and apprentice. If one day Hinata shouted youth, Naruto will be desperate. Hinata Ninji saw Hinata and Naruto holding hands, and her face became fierce. Chapter 93. A total of 6 teams passed the exam. As Naruto expected, in addition to the 4 teams of Woodleaf, the other 2 teams were the 3 from Odogaecure, and the other, Sanin My Love's team. When My Love saw the lively Naruto, the sand became restless again. However, his mood was stopped by Baki's timely scolding. Then he stared at Naruto with panda-like eyes all the way. Sure enough, it turned out that a dog that bites doesn't bark. After being scolded by Baki, My Love didn't leave any harsh words. His eyes contained the determination to kill Naruto. Stare. By the way, I won't draw My Love in a while, right? That's really a bad draw. Bah. What am I thinking? I can't put flags on myself. But with this thought, Naruto's heart couldn't help but feel a little scared. If I really meet My Love, how should I deal with it? I should plan it first. The gathering place was an empty room. It was squarish and looked like a stadium. Sandaime Naruto and the Invigilators stood in front of a huge stone arm with the Way seal. It was a pair of ninja's arms, with net-like tight sleeves at the wrists. The Way seal was held with both hands in the shape of a sword finger, and the sword finger of the right hand was covered with the sword finger of the left hand from top to bottom. Don't rub. Because it was big and tall, the stone statue looked very imposing. In addition, Sandaime Naruto and the Invigilators stood slightly higher than the 6 teams. Well, it was a podium. On both sides of the room, there was a long corridor along the wall, protected by iron railings. It was a grandstand. The captains of the 6 teams walked down the stage with their teams. From left to right, there were 4 Jonin from Woodleaf, 1 Baki from Sanin, and 1 Orochimaru from Odogaecure. Of course, the current Orochimaru was Orochimaru in disguise. When Naruto saw the disguised Orochimaru, he had an impulse to jump out on the spot, point at Orochimaru and shout, "You are Orochimaru!" Thinking about it, it would be very interesting. No, he couldn't court his own death. Even if Orochimaru was pointed out, he might not necessarily die. But he was in danger. Using the power of 9 tails in front of Orochimaru, Naruto was afraid that Orochimaru would seal 9 tails with a seal of the 5 elements. That would be ridiculous. Moreover, he did not plan to expose the power of 9 tails in public. The human pillar force who could control the power of 9 tails, and the human pillar force who had not awakened would definitely be more strict in guarding the village. At that time, it was very likely that even if he used a shadow clone, he would not be able to avoid the surveillance of the dark group. So be quiet and don't court death. He was a good kid who didn't seek death. Naruto resisted the impulse in his heart, and began to look at his toes like Hinata. Is the left foot more handsome, or the right foot more handsome? Seeing that everyone was here, Sandaime Naruto said, "Thank you for your hard work, especially the allies of Sanin who came from afar, and friends of Odogaecure who are participating for the first time." Everyone saluted. Sandaime Naruto said, "Leave the next one to me." The 6 leaders bowed, and then walked behind Sandaime Naruto under Naruto's signal. Naruto only felt nervous for Sandaime Naruto. At this time, if Orochimaru stabbed Sandaime Naruto in the back, but the possibility of success should be very low. After all, there were a group of Woodleaf ninjas around him. There should also be protection in the dark. Thinking of this, Naruto looked at the sky. Will there be Umbu ninjas protecting him in the dark? There should be, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the Hyuga clan's dojutsu. But when he learns the spirit transformation jutsu, it should be quite interesting to use his soul to explore. At that time, should he float into Hinata's house? Sandaime Naruto's eyes swept over the 6 teams present from the sky to the end. Naturally, he also saw Naruto, who was inexplicably smirking. Sandaime Naruto controlled his twitching mouth, looked away, and then said loudly, "First of all, I want to congratulate you for passing the 2nd exam." Naruto listened in the audience. He found that big people like to speak in pauses. Is he waiting for applause? Sandaime Naruto, before I take down the explanation of the 3rd exam, there is one thing I must make clear. That is why this exam is held. Sandaime Naruto took a deep breath with his pipe in his mouth, then exhaled the smoke and said, "The reason why the allied countries are working together to hold this exam, in order to deepen the friendly relationship between each other and improve the strength of the ninja. I hope you don't misunderstand its true purpose. Sandaime Naruto raised his hand and straightened Naruto's exclusive bamboo hat. He continued, in fact, this exam is a microcosm of the battle between the allied countries. If you look at the past history, you will find that today's allied countries were all neighbors who competed with each other in the past. In order to avoid unnecessary loss of combat power and a situation where both sides suffered losses, this was chosen as the battlefield. Sandaime Naruto spoke passionately, his voice was gloomy and powerful. However, Naruto was slacking off. He looked at Mitarashi Red Bean and Orochimaru, who was disguised as the teacher of the three people from Odogakure. This pair was also teacher and disciple. Now that they were standing so close to each other, he wondered what Orochimaru would feel. If Mitarashi Red Bean knew that Orochimaru was behind her, how would she react? Should I wait? Stop. Naruto was afraid that he wouldn't be able to help himself from pointing out Orochimaru's identity. At this moment, Naruto found that Sandaime Naruto's speech was coming to an end, because Moonlight Rush suddenly appeared and asked for permission. Moonlight Rush, a ninja with a black turban on his head, was kneeling on one knee in front of Sandaime Naruto. Please forgive my rudeness, Naruto-sama. Please leave the rest of the work to me as the referee. Sandaime Naruto looked at Moonlight Rush and nodded. All right. Moonlight Rush stood up and turned around, revealing a pair of blue panda eyes and a sickly look. Hello, my name is Moonlight Rush. After saying this, Moonlight Rush paused for a moment. However, it was different from Sandaime Naruto's powerful pause. His pause made it seem as if he was about to suffocate and die. Naruto's medical ninja soul was suddenly possessed by an old Chinese medicine doctor. Looking at the pair of blue eyes, he diagnosed with certainty in his heart, this is kidney deficiency. Moonlight Rush continued. Before the third exam begins, you need to first pause. Have a pre-selection which will determine whether you have the qualifications to participate in the third exam. As soon as this sentence was said, there was an uproar below. Pre-selection? How can this be? Sensei, why can't we directly participate in the third exam? Naruto didn't recognize the first sentence, but the second sentence was undoubtedly from Sakura Haruno. Moonlight Rush explained. In short, the first two rounds were a bit too simple, there are too many people left. Sandaime Naruto has already said that the third exam will invite famous people from all over the world to spectate. Time is limited, so we can't drag this out too much. So if you feel uncomfortable, or if you don't want to participate, please raise your hand. If not, we'll start the pre-selection. The audience was once again in an uproar. Someone asked, are we starting now? Naruto vaguely heard the whimper of a dog. Was it Tooth Inuzuka? In front of the stage, Moonlight Rush nodded. It seemed that he was too lazy to speak, or that speaking was too strenuous for him. After a while, Moonlight Rush. No one abstains? Then I'll enter your names into the machine, and the system will randomly select two people to compete in the first round. The system's random selection will automatically prevent people from being in the same group or village. It will also prioritize battles between people of the same gender. The selection will be completely random if certain conditions are met. Of course, if only ninjas from the same village or group remain, those conditions won't apply. Moonlight Rush indicated to Mitarashi Red Bean. Mitarashi pressed down on the radio and ordered, turn it on. Then the curtain on the wall rose, revealing a huge monitor. Beep, beep, beep. The monitor flashed and two names appeared. Uzumaki Naruto versus Kankuro. It's not Gaara. What a good draw. Naruto jumped up and cheered. Whoa, what a good draw. Everyone looked over at the same time. Kankuro's expression was without a doubt the darkest. He gnashed his teeth and said, damned brat. Chapter 94. Naruto against Kankuro. Everyone exited the arena and retreated to the 2-meter-high wall. At this time, the contestants of Woodleaf were very conflicted. They hoped that the little brother opposite them would teach Naruto a lesson. However, Naruto was a Woodleaf ninja after all, and the opponent was Sannin. From their standpoint, they should support Naruto. Before leaving, Hinata waved her small fist at Naruto. Naruto-kun, you have to do it. Naruto replied with his most handsome smile. 10 seconds, I'll solve it in an instant. This sentence could be said to be a stone that stirred up 1,000 waves. Whether it was with Leaf Ninja, Sannin Ninja, or Otogekure Ninja, or the Invigilators, they all looked over. Ibiki Marino's face twitched and whispered, "This guy is really," Red Bean Mitarashi said. "He likes to be in the limelight?" Ibiki Marino shook her head and said, "No, he likes to talk big. Even if he can win, no matter how easy it is, it can't be 10 seconds. Red Bean Mitarashi's only impression of Naruto was Naruto outside of Naruto's office. Hearing Ibiki Marino praise Naruto, she couldn't help but look at Naruto seriously and said, "I didn't expect you to really consider what he said, so you have a high opinion of this guy?" Ibiki Marino smiled. "This guy is a bit smart. In short, I'm looking forward to it." Red Bean Mitarashi knew Ibiki Marino's strict style of doing things. After all, she was a member of the interrogation department. Someone who can make Ibiki Marino have expectations. Enko Mitarai couldn't help but feel a lot of anticipation. Naruto Sandame listened to the two talking about Naruto, and said, "There's one thing I agree with, it's impossible to end the battle in 10 seconds. Puppeteers are a group of troublesome guys." Under the stands, in the arena, Kankuro was wearing a black cat-eared cloak. It was said to be the traditional costume of a puppeteer. He was carrying something as tall as a person wrapped in bandages on his back. Under normal circumstances, it was the puppeteer's puppet. Naruto glanced at it, the corner of his mouth raised, and he chuckled without a trace. Hate Gecko stood between the two as the referee. The two sides are Uzumaki Naruto and Kankuro. Any objections? Naruto. No. Kankuro was expressionless. Once Gale received his answer, he announced, "Then let the duel begin." When the match started, Kankuro put down the puppet on his back. "You want to finish me in 10 seconds? You'll regret what you said." The bandaged puppet fell to the ground, and Kankuro rushed over. At this time, Naruto suddenly said, Wait a minute." Kankuro's movement stopped. Naruto scratched his head in embarrassment. "I'm sorry. It wasn't good to say that you're my best in front of so many people." Kankuro was still expressionless. "Are you done?" Naruto nodded. "I'm done." Kankuro then attacked again. "Then you can go to hell." Kankuro suddenly sped up, and his body flashed in front of Naruto. Physical attack? Naruto's lips curled up and he counted. 1. Using his fingers as a sword, he dodged Kankuro's attack from the left. The moment the two brushed past each other, he suddenly raised his right hand and swung it. Bang, 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 bang. The sound was very subtle, and only the sharpest people could hear it. Then Naruto turned around and his right foot stepped on the ground. His left leg swept out, and his left leg kicked out smoothly. Bam! The kick hit Kankuro's back, and then Kankuro flew out. He flew out nearly 100 meters. Naruto, too. The battle ended in an instant? This was, if the conversation between the two of them was only 5 seconds. If it wasn't, it was only 2 seconds. Everyone stared, not knowing what had happened. At this time, Naruto continued to make seals. Multiple shadow clone technique. However, it was only one clone. Naruto grabbed the clone's hand and threw it in front of Kankuro. Was he going to continue to attack? Everyone was looking forward to it. Naruto, who was thrown out, did something unexpected. He took out a scroll and sealed it on Kankuro's body. Then Kankuro was sealed in the scroll. 3. Shocking. What happened? Naruto sealed a living person in the scroll? That's not right. That technique could only seal a corpse, right? How could a living person? Could it be that Naruto kicked him to death? While everyone was puzzled, the clone threw the scroll to the main body. The main body put the scroll in his pocket, and then turned to the mummy on the ground and said, "Come out? Do you still think you can sneak attack me?" The white bandages fell, and Kankuro stood up from the ground. He said in disbelief, "How did you know I swapped with the puppet? And how did you cut off the chakra line between me and the puppet?" Naruto shrugged arrogantly. "Is it difficult? It seems obvious to me. First of all, although your puppet's disguise is passable, Its face is expressionless, and its eyes are dull like a fool. Also, I exposed your method in the first exam. At that time, you used a puppet to disguise as an invigilator to help you cheat. Do you remember? Kankuro frowned. Naruto's words were harsh, but it was the truth, so he had nothing to say. With a gloomy face he asked, "Then how did you cut off the chakra line between me and the puppet?" "As far as I can see, you didn't use any special dojutsu. It's impossible to see the chakra line with the naked eye, let alone cut it." Naruto sighed. "You have so many questions. Well, I'll give you comfort, but the time to explain doesn't count in the battle." Naruto pointed to himself and grinned. "In addition to being an ordinary ninja, I am also a medical ninja. Things like the chakra line, I can cut it clean with a chakra scalpel in minutes." Kankuro looked at Naruto in a daze, and he was a little unwilling. After a long silence he finally sighed and said, "I admit defeat." "Admit defeat?" Naruto asked curiously. "You don't want to continue fighting? I remember you said you were going to kill me. And I only took 3 seconds to defeat your puppet, and then you admitted defeat. Does this count as me only taking 3 seconds to defeat you? Then I really overestimated you. I thought you would struggle a little." Kankuro clenched his fists. For a puppet master, all his means were on the puppet. Now that the puppet was sealed by the opponent, what else could he do? Naruto had sealed the puppet, but he had to thank Zabuza, because he took away Zabuza's sword last time, and then it was taken back, so today's sealing scroll was used. This was Naruto's determination. In the future, the meat on the edge of his mouth will never be taken back again. Moonlight Rush looked at Kankuro, raised his hand and announced, "Kankuro admits defeat. The winner is Uzumaki Naruto." The whole venue was quiet. This competition was really strange in the eyes of outsiders. People couldn't help but wonder if there was some shady business going on here. The 3 people secretly glanced at my love. Hinata Ninji, Shino Yomi, and Ino Yamanaka knew that my love instantly killed 3 ninjas in the forest of death. Among them, Hinata Ninji and Ino Yamanaka saw it with their own eyes, so they knew how powerful and terrifying my love was. Would such a dangerous and powerful Sannin go easy on him? In their line of sight, Gaara glanced at Kankuro in the field and scolded him. Trash. Would Leaf, who secretly glanced at Kankuro, retracted his gaze. If he didn't go easy, then they couldn't accept the other result. Was Naruto very strong? Moonlight Rush announced the end of the competition. Naruto turned around, put his hands in his pockets, and walked towards the place where his team gathered. Kankurang suddenly shouted from behind, "Give me back my puppet!" That was the puppet he carefully made, so he couldn't lose it. Naruto turned around and sneered. "Can you be more shameless? What do you mean your puppet? That's my spoils of war. It's mine now." Kankuro still wanted to argue, but he was stopped by my love. "Kankuro, come back. Don't make a fool of yourself." Kankuro's face twisted in anger. He clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. "Okay, I'll remember it." Then he angrily walked towards Sannin's team. At this time, Naruto shouted again, "Wait, I didn't say that I can't give it to you in another way. If you really want it, you can buy it back." Everyone's eyes focused on Naruto again. Sakura Haruno's eyelids twitched. She secretly cursed. Can this guy be any more despicable? This can be said to have offended the entire Sand village. Chapter 95. Naruto won. And judging from the way Naruto asked for the ransom, there was no PY deal. For a moment, the audience in the stands had mixed feelings. Lee Lock sighed. "I didn't expect Naruto to be so strong." Tion next to him snorted. "How is he strong? He just likes to play tricks. It must be because he likes to transform into other people, and has used it many times. That's why it was so easy for him to find the opponent's flaw. If the opponent didn't use this trick and directly used the puppet to fight, it's not certain who would win." Shaoli heard Tion's judgment and rubbed his chin with his finger as if he was thinking. "What you said seems to make sense." Hinata Ninji next to him shook his head and denied. "Not necessarily. Even if the ninja of Sannin directly used the puppet to fight, under Naruto's chakra scalpel, he won't be able to gain any advantage. Then he turned to Tian Tian and asked, Tian Tian, you also participated in the medical ninja crash course. You also learned the chakra scalpel, right? You use it once, and I'll use the Byakugan to see if I can see anything. Tian Tian blinked his eyes and said embarrassedly, I haven't learned the chakra scalpel yet. Hinata Ninja was stunned, and his eyes slightly changed. Oh? The chakra scalpel is very difficult? Tian Tian said dejectedly. It's more than difficult. According to my medical ninja teacher, it's a ninjutsu that has extremely strict requirements for the control of chakra. Under normal circumstances, it can't be learned without a few years of effort. In our crash course, only Naruto was able to learn it. Hinata Ninja nodded. So Naruto is very talented in medical ninja? Tian Tian nodded unwillingly. He thought of the scene in the medical ninjutsu crash course. Naruto asked Hana Fujita if Chakra's scalpel could be used in battle. Hanafuma's answer was, impossible. Chakra's scalpel needs to be fully focused on controlling chakra. Otherwise, chakra would be in a state of chaos and it would backfire. Could it be that Sensei Kazama was lying? Or was Naruto too abnormal? Tian Tian shook his head impatiently and said, Oh, don't flatter him. Even if he is a little clever in medical ninjutsu, Ninji-kun, with your strength, you can deal with him in a matter of minutes. Hinata Ninja thought carefully and said, Although his chakra scalpel is a bit interesting, it shouldn't be able to break through my defense, and it might not be able to hit me. It shouldn't be difficult to deal with him. Tian Tian said happily, Look, like I said, he just played a little trick and barely passed the preparatory exam. Shaoli muttered, Then how can I guard against his chakra scalpel? On the other side, Shino Yomi's team was also studying Naruto's battle. Tooth Inuzuka was an optimist. He laughed and said, With my keen sense of smell, I think I can distinguish which one is the puppet at first glance, and then I can directly give the useless puppet to Akamaru. I can directly knock out the puppet master with a punch. Shino Yomi whispered, I don't know much about the scalpel, but if I put a mother insect on the enemy's puppet, the male parasite will follow the chakra string to find the mother insect. At that time, the chakra string will be directly bitten off by my parasite, so this puppet won't be a threat to me. Sakura Haruno looked at the two of them and didn't say anything. She was more concerned about Naruto's battle with chakra scalpel. Didn't Hwayue-sensei say that if it's not used properly, there will be a backlash? Naruto really likes to mess around. If he doesn't control chakra well, there will be a backlash. Huh? Why am I worried about Naruto? Sakura Haruno quickly shook her head. She looked at Sasuke, and then she found that Sasuke-kun was looking at Naruto. His expression was somewhat dignified. Sasuke-kun, what is he thinking in the arena? Kankuro fiercely glared at Naruto, then turned and walked back to his team. Naruto shouted, Hey, we haven't discussed the price yet. Don't you want to buy it? Kankuro's veins bulged, and he quickened his pace. Naruto continued to shout, If you change your mind, feel free to find me. I'll be waiting for you. The price is negotiable, and it can be more or less. After all, this puppet is useless to me. Kankuro jumped and returned to the 2-meter-high stand where his team was. My love looked at Kankuro coldly and sneered. So ugly. Sanon's face is lost because of you. Kankuro clenched his fist and stared at my love. Hanbao mediated. Okay, there are still 2 matches left. Our mission hasn't failed. My love looked at Hanbao. I hope you won't be as embarrassing as him. Hanbao was choked by this sentence, and Kankuro's face turned red. But he did lose. He clenched his fist until it turned white, and his nails pierced his palm. The pain filled his body, but no matter how painful it was, it couldn't be compared to the humiliation of his dignity. Kankuro swore in his heart that he would remember this. Naruto returned to his team. Kakashi praised, Good performance. Sanon's puppet masters have always been the most difficult group to deal with. Your method might be valued by the 3rd Naruto. If it can be promoted, it will be a great contribution. Naruto's eyes lit up. If it helps, will I be given a bonus? Bonus? First, he asked for a ransom from the enemy, and now he wanted a bonus from his own village? How much did Naruto love money? Kakashi asked suspiciously. As far as I know, you don't lack money, right? Naruto stared. Who said so? I lack money. Let me calculate for you. First of all, the small house I live in is surrounded by the downtown area. Every day, no matter if it's day or night, it doesn't let me have any peace. It completely disturbs my normal cultivation. If you want to solve this problem, you have to buy a house, right? That's one of the reasons. Also, I'm 13 this year. In a few years, I will get married and have children. When I get married, I have to prepare a dowry, right? I have to support my wife and children, right? Aren't these all money? When the children grow up, they still have to go to school. In order to prevent the children from being bullied in school, I have to give some gifts to the teachers during the holidays, right? When Naruto showed his stance, Kakashi, Hinata, and Sasuke were stunned. They had to admit that compared to them, Naruto's thought process was really far-sighted. Naruto suddenly thought of Hinata. He turned to Hinata and said, Hinata, if you meet that my love in the next competition, you don't have to fight, just admit defeat. This is very important. It's not that you're not strong enough, it's that the opponent is too dangerous. Hinata was blushing because of Naruto's words about getting married and having children. She still hadn't recovered from the shock. Ah, what? The 180-degree change in topic caused Kakashi's brain to freeze for a moment. However, he recovered quickly and asked, What's wrong with that Sannin ninja? Naruto didn't hide anything and said directly, He's the human pillar force. Of course, there's something very wrong with him. Kakashi was surprised and quickly looked at Sandaime Naruto, then lowered his voice and asked, Are you sure? If this news is true, you must inform Sandaime Naruto-sama as soon as possible. Naruto shook his head and said, I'm sure, but you don't have to bother. Sandaime Naruto should already know. Did you forget that there's an Umbu ninja among the Invigilators? Kakashi's tense nerves relaxed and he suddenly realized, so that's the case. At this time, the list of the second game appeared on the screen, Hanbao vs. Hammer. Hammer is the girl from Audiobook. Naruto looked at the screen and whispered, The game is currently under the control of Woodleaf. I think, if I were Sandaime Naruto, I wouldn't let my love fight against our ninja first. Kakashi also looked at the screen and whispered, That's good, but if it's not no matter who meets that person, it's best to give up. Sasuke frowned. If I meet him, I will never give up. Chapter 96. Hanbao came on the stage, with golden hair and 4 hedgehog ponytails like a windmill, and a huge iron fan as tall as a person. On the other side was Otogekyu's Kotohammer. Long black hair hanging straight to the heel, ninja tools were senbonzai and bells. When he walked, the jingling sound was very rhythmic. In the stands, Naruto asked Sasuke, Do you want to bet on who will win? Sasuke looked at Naruto with a heavy and dignified look. When he was called by Naruto, he looked up at Naruto. Naruto gestured to the next match. Let's bet on who will win. The loser will eat ramen. I haven't tasted Uncle Uraka's cooking for a long time. Sasuke looked at the match, his eyes lingering on the 2 female ninja, and then said, Judging from the huge fan, Sannin's female ninja may use wind release. If it's wind release, then Sannin's female ninja will win this match. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, you're lucky this time. I'll invite you to eat ramen after the match. Then he turned his head and looked at Hinata. Hinata, do you want to come? Just invite. Hinata nodded and said, Uh-huh. She looked very cute, and with her hands on her chest, she looked like a well-behaved squirrel who was asking for food. Kakashi was dissatisfied. Aren't you going to invite me? Naruto raised his eyebrows and wondered. Why should I invite you? If Kakashi-sensei wants to eat together, shouldn't Kakashi-sensei invite us? By the way, we are the first to complete the second exam this time. Shouldn't we have earned enough face for you? And face should only be one of the reasons. We are so good. As the instructor, Naruto should give you a good bonus, right? Kakashi's face darkened. He felt that he really shouldn't have opened his mouth. Besides, could Naruto not talk about money every time he opened his mouth? But on second thought, Naruto's love for money Might have something to do with his status as an orphan. He must have had a hard time these past few years. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt a little sour in his heart. If only he had known about Naruto's existence earlier. Unfortunately, it wasn't until the day Naruto graduated that the third-generation Naruto found him. Only then did he know that Minato-sensei still had a son alive in this world. Ah, there is a bonus. Alright, I'll treat you guys today. Kakashi suddenly narrowed his eyes and laughed heartily. Naruto and the other two looked at each other blankly. Naruto couldn't help but complain. Teacher Kakashi is so generous today. The veins on Kakashi's forehead throbbed. Although the ninja headband covered most of them, some of them could still be seen. He roared discontentedly. I've always been generous, okay? Kakashi wanted to say that he had built a wall for him and bought an alarm clock for him more than once. Of course, then he freeloaded for a month's worth of food. Tizke. If that's the case, it seems to be even? It seems that he earned a little bit. Am I really stingy? Kakashi wondered himself. At this time, the two sides below began to fight. The huge iron fan unfolded, and a strong wind suddenly blew, blowing everyone's hair into a mess. Some of them were even unstable, and were almost blown over. Kakashi turned his attention to the game. Sannin's Hanbao won. Only 10 seconds had passed since the start of the match. Kakashi said with some surprise. You actually guessed it? Did you know Otogekyure's method in advance? Naruto looked at Sasuke. Sasuke understood Naruto's meaning and explained. Well, we met in the second exam. The ninja of Otogekyure manipulated sound and used genjutsu to attack the enemy. If Sannin's ninja used wind release, then as long as he was strong enough, there would be a situation of complete suppression. Kakashi nodded and praised. It seems that you have made great progress in this exam. I have to treat you this time. But how did you pass the second exam? It should be wonderful, right? Kakashi looked at his students. Hinata looked down at her toes. Sasuke looked at Naruto. Then Kakashi looked at Naruto. Naruto smiled awkwardly and said, That. Kakashi-sensei, if you don't want us to become the enemy of Woodleaf, don't ask this question in the future. Enemy of Woodleaf? So serious? Yes, it's serious. Not to mention the loopholes in the game. With the first exam allowing cheating, even if the loopholes in the game are discovered, it is still within the scope of the allowed. But other things such as fooling my love and Orochimaru, and what Naruto didn't know, Sasuke came up with a collective taunt. A taunt forest that was 10 miles long. The ninja allied forces. It's a trap. Fooling the other 3 teams of Woodleaf and my love. And stealing Hinata Ninji's scroll. One by one, every one of them was found out, and the result was terrible. At that time, when Kakashi's team became famous, they would inevitably become a rat on the street, and everyone would want to beat them. That scene is not something that ordinary people can bear. Kakashi looked at Sasuke, and Sasuke looked at Kakashi seriously and nodded seriously. Kakashi looked at Hinata, and Hinata raised her head and looked at Kakashi, and then nodded again and again. Kakashi took a deep breath, nodded and said firmly, It seems that you really did something big. Well, although I'm curious, for your personal safety, I won't ask. But today's meal has to be paid by the mastermind of the thing I can't ask. Sasuke and Hinata looked at Naruto. Naruto looked around and sighed. Okay, it's my treat. Kakashi's face twitched. Sure enough, I guess that since it was a matter of seeking death, it must be your idea. I suddenly changed my mind. I really want to expose your matter and see you become a rat on the street, and everyone will want to beat you. Naruto's expression was bitter, and he begged. Don't, Kakashi-sensei. A man's words carry weight. Since you promised, don't go back on your words. Kakashi's salted fish eyes rolled and looked at the screen. One match is over, and the next match is about to begin. After Moonlight Rush announced the winner, the big screen flashed, and then 2 names appeared. Uchiha Sasuke versus Tosu Anvil. Naruto patted Sasuke's shoulder and said, It seems that your idea of challenging my love has failed in the preliminaries. Do you want to bet on the outcome of this match? Sasuke said coolly, I will win. Naruto complained. Although I also think that you will win, can you not be so arrogant? Sasuke mocked. You are not qualified to talk about me. Your declaration that you will only need 10 seconds to defeat the opponent is the real arrogant fart, right? Naruto said disdainfully. TSK, it turns out that I only used 3 seconds to defeat the opponent. Do you dare to challenge my record? Because Sasuke was a participant in this match. At this moment, all the people who knew Sasuke were looking at him. Sasuke said confidently, why not? Boom. The whole venue exploded. However, it was different from Naruto, who was hated by everyone. Sasuke's declaration actually had several supporters. Sasuke-kun, come on. I am optimistic about you. This was Ino. Sasuke-kun will win. This was Tion. Sasuke-kun surpassed Naruto's record. This was Sakura Haruno. They were all beautiful girls, including Xiao Li's cheering. Sasuke, if you do it, I will be your challenger. There was also Tooth Inuzuka's roar, and Akamaru's barking. Of course, there was also Otogekyure's angry stare. This scene made Naruto very unhappy and complained, Gigolo is really popular. Sasuke shrugged his shoulders and made a face that said, I can't help it. In an instant, Naruto's anger increased to another level. Fortunately, Hinata, the fire extinguisher, appeared and encouraged Naruto. Naruto-kun is also very handsome. Comfortable. Then there was Naruto and Hinata's eyes, as well as Hinata's shy look. Sasuke came on. But will his declaration come true? Naruto only used 3 seconds. Chapter 97. Otogekyure Torres. His specific face was unknown. His face was wrapped in a large bandage, and only his left eye was exposed. Although there is a suspicion of imitating Kakashi's appearance, compared to Kakashi's handsomeness, Torres only has a disadvantage. There is a white fluff-like thing behind him that is unknown whether it is a cloak or hair made of animal fur. O-shaped legs, a stooped body, and likes to hang down his hands, so his popularity is naturally not comparable to the elegant Sasuke. On the other hand, Sasuke is very young, his waist is very straight, and his white and tender skin seems to be fragile, attracting the girls' attention. Coupled with his sharp eyes, the girls are even more fascinated. There is also the sad and beautiful life of the noble son. The image of the melancholy prince is suddenly engraved in the heart of every girl who has a princess plot. Come on, Sasuke. Sasuke will win. Sasuke, I love you. In this situation, Naruto, who was completely defeated in his appearance, said. Naruto curled his lips. What's there to be proud of? A group of women who can't compare to our Hinata's finger. Hinata shyly pointed her fingers at each other in front of her chest. Kakashi looked at Naruto and told the truth. But you still look envious, but I don't say it. Naruto's face twitched and changed the subject. What's the use of overwhelming me in appearance? Let's talk about it after you break my record. Kakashi smiled and said, but I think it's not difficult for Sasuke to break your record. How is it possible? Naruto looked up at the game. At this time, the referee Moonlight Rush hasn't announced the start of the game yet. Naruto said first, no, even if he kills the opponent with Chidori, it will take 3 seconds to prepare, right? Shouldn't it be? Naruto raised his head and stared at Kakashi and said, did Sasuke master? Kakashi smiled and didn't say anything. Naruto turned his head to the game. Moonlight Rush raised his hand and said, game start. In an instant, Sasuke's Sharingan opened, and 2 Tomo appeared in his eyes. Torres stared at Sasuke, and the two just happened to be looking at each other. Naruto roared in his heart. How can this guy stare at the eyes of the Uchiha clan? Looking for death? Is he trying to kill himself? Naruto felt that there was a bear roaring in his heart. At this time, Sasuke has launched Genjutsu. 1 second, 1 and a second, 2 seconds. Torres said mechanically. I admit defeat. Boom. The whole stadium. Naruto couldn't hold back and cursed. What the F***CK? MMP. This is cheating. Sasuke turned his head and gave Naruto a handsome smile. Naruto's face was like a dead fish. At the moment when Sasuke's victory was announced, the girls couldn't hold back their hearts anymore, and the cheers for Sasuke were unprecedentedly loud. Sasuke took 2 or 3 steps towards the stands, and then jumped on the high platform and said smugly, "How is it? Your record isn't that difficult to break." Naruto was unhappy and said sarcastically, "Show off." At this time, everyone was whispering about Sasuke's move just now. The name of Uchiha swept the audience. Among them, the one with the most eager eyes was undoubtedly Orochimaru. The excited Orochimaru couldn't help but stretch out his long snake head and lick his lips. In the stands, Kakashi's team. Naruto complained to Kakashi, "Wasn't Sasuke a single Tomo before? When did he evolve?" Kakashi smiled and said, "When the Snow Country was chasing the escaping ninjas." Naruto snorted, "Humph. So you gave him special treatment at that time. You're biased." Mekkei looked at Kakashi and sighed. Kakashi's disciple is also very strong. Hinata Ninja was calmer. After all, he is a member of that clan, good at genjutsu attacks. There is nothing strange about it. Guy nodded, and then flashed his teeth and said, "But against you his genjutsu is useless." At this time Shaoli interrupted. Me. Hinata Ninja said as usual. Genjutsu is sometimes very effective against one-track-minded people. One-track-minded, Shaoli's heart suffered a huge blow, and he softly hung on the guardrail. At this time, the list of the 4th game appeared on the screen, Sasuke vs My Love. In the stands, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. My Love finally came out, so I don't have to worry about Hinata encountering him. But this Otoge is also very boring. Don't tell me they didn't look at the almanac when they went out? Kakashi was also paying attention to the game and whispered, "It seems that your guess may come true." Guess refers to the guess that Naruto said before that would Leaf Ninja will not encounter My Love in the preparatory game. Naruto nodded. Maybe, but I am more concerned about the shadow in the heart of Otoge Ninja. My Love should be angry now, and he may not control himself and kill the other party directly in an instant. Kakashi looked over with his dead fish eyes. Isn't that your fault? My fault? Is this a disguised way to let Orochimaru take the blame for me? Recalling the 3 losers of Otoge. The first Guchin Hammer was defeated by Hanbao. At that time, Hanbao should also be angry because of Naruto, so Guchin Hammer was defeated very quickly. Then it was Sasuke. Because Sasuke wanted to break Naruto's record, Sasuke lost in seconds. And then it was Sasuke. Angry My Love, hehe. Naruto secretly glanced at the leader of Otoge, Orochimaru disguised as an Otoge ninja. Ha! He's gone. When did he disappear? He won't suddenly find me, right? Naruto only felt a chill on his back. No one wants to face Orochimaru, who is hiding in the dark. Tonight, I'll go to the store manager's house. Naruto was afraid that he couldn't sleep in his own house. On the field, Sasuke declared, "I am different from the other 2 wastes. Don't underestimate me." My Love stared at Sasuke expressionlessly. "I will kill you in a second." This declaration made the whole venue suddenly quiet. People who know the horror of My Love have begun to mourn for Sasuke. For example, Naruto. There was also Niji Hyuga, Ino, and Shino Aburame, who was wearing sunglasses and had his face hidden in a huge collar. Under the influence of the few people who were scattered all over the stands, the atmosphere of the other people also became solemn. Especially when Hinata Ninja said solemnly, "Otoge Ninja is in danger." Mekkei, who was convinced of Hinata Ninja's judgment, also became dignified. "Metha. I also feel a very dangerous aura from him." Lee Locke's eyes burned with the flames of war. Is he also strong? How is he compared to Sasuke and Naruto? If he is also strong, I want to fight with him. Shaoli? Lee Locke's voice was not small. It could even be said to be very loud at the moment when a needle could be heard. Naruto looked at Shaoli and praised himself in his heart. Although the second exam was a mess, thanks to me, you don't have to be disabled in the preliminaries. Alas, it's a pity that I did so many good things, but no one knows. On the field, Moonlight Rush, standing between the 2 people, was also nervous. He looked at My Love solemnly, took a deep breath and said, "Contestant My Love Sasuke, any objections?" The bottle cap of the sand gourd popped out with a pop, and a strong smell of blood swept through everyone's sense of smell. It was sand poured with blood, full of the smell of death. My love, no objection. Sasuke, who had the word death written on his clothes, swallowed his saliva. No objection. Moonlight Rush took a few steps back and withdrew to the edge of the field. Then the game begins. Chapter 98. How long was 1 second? How fast was my love's sand? The moment Gale Moonlight announced the start of the match, everyone present witnessed it for themselves. It turned out that my love's sand was very fast. The sand, which was known for its absolute defense, rushed out in an instant. Zack raised his hands, and the wind points in his palms didn't wait to aim at my love. The sand had already wrapped him up, and then, my love. Suddenly Marky shouted. He appeared in front of my love with the wind teleportation technique. The yellow sand swept toward Marky. Was my love going to deal with Marky too? Woodleaf didn't move. After a while, my love dispersed the sand and said coldly, "You're in my way. I hope this is the last time, even if it's you." The yellow sand dispersed and carried my love back to the stands. Moonlight Rush checked Toth's condition. Both his hands were broken, and there were many fractures on his body. He had no strength to fight again. Moonlight Rush announced, "My love wins." Because of Marky's influence, my love didn't finish the enemy in 1 second. But no one present doubted that he had the strength to finish the enemy in 1 second. No. Under certain circumstances, except for Marky's appearance to affect the time of the game, my love did do it. Toth's hands should have been broken the moment they were wrapped in the yellow sand. In the stands, Naruto looked at Sasuke. "Do you still want to challenge such an enemy?" Sasuke looked at my love, who returned to the stands in the distance, and said without hesitation, "Yes." Naruto shrugged. "They're all crazy. I don't want to." Kakashi said, "Well, in this case, admitting defeat is indeed a wise choice." Naruto rolled his eyes and said, "Who said I would admit defeat? If I meet him, I will beat him up until he can't even recognize his own mother. I have already thought of a way to deal with him." Sasuke complained, "Don't tell me they gave him laxatives before the match?" Naruto's eyes lit up when he heard that. He praised it. "Drugging her isn't a bad choice. Student Sasuke, your mind is very sharp." Sasuke and Hinata both looked at Naruto. Both of them were well aware of the harvest Naruto had in the Forest of Death, and the number of potions he had concocted. Sasuke said seriously, "You're not really thinking of drugging her, are you?" Naruto smiled and said, "I'm still considering it." "Heh heh heh heh." Kakashi raised his eyebrows and moved his forehead protector. He thought, "Since they are all prepared, it seems that I don't have to worry about them." Naruto laughed a few times and changed the topic. "But it's a bit early to talk about my love. What we should pay attention to now is, who is Hinata's opponent?" Hinata's opponent. Now that Naruto and Sasuke from Team 7 had already gone on stage, there was only Hinata left. Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi all looked at Hinata. Hinata was a bit nervous under their stares. She said weakly, "It doesn't matter who it is. Isn't the most dangerous one, my love, already on stage?" Naruto reminded her, "You forgot that your cousin, my future brother-in-law, is also present." Hinata's cousin, Hinata Ninji. Naruto looked into the distance where Hinata Ninji was. "You don't seem to get along with your cousin, do you? If you meet him, he doesn't seem to be holding back." The atmosphere suddenly became a bit oppressive. Naruto looked at Hinata Ninji. Hinata Ninji saw Naruto with his wide-angle vision, and turned to look at him. Naruto shouted at the top of his voice, "Hey! If you and Hinata go up against each other, if you dare to hit her too hard, I will definitely beat you up until you can't even recognize your own mother." The entire venue was still shrouded in fear of my love. It was originally quiet, but Naruto's shout woke everyone up. F***CK. This is a confession. I've never seen such a shameless person. Tooth Inuzuka said. Then Akamaru responded with a woof. However, the girls were very optimistic about Naruto's shout. Sakura Haruno praised, "Naruto still has some serious business." Tooth Inuzuka complained, "This is serious business?" Sakura Haruno stared. "How is this not serious business?" On the other side, Ino praised. I suddenly realized that Naruto is quite manly. Shikamaru curled his lips, glanced at Naruto and said lightly, boring. Women are the most troublesome. Dingji looked at the sky. Rumble. This was his stomach growling. Dingji sighed. I'm so hungry. These people's praise did not escape Naruto's ears. He said happily, well, it seems that I have gained a wave of popularity. Sasuke. This kind of flirting, Sasuke said that he disdained to learn it. Kakashi. This kind of flirting, Kakashi said that he was ashamed that he could not learn it. Hinata's fingers tapped each other in front of her chest. She was embarrassed at this time. Hinata Ninji finally responded, as if nothing had happened. You will not be my opponent. A cold and heartless look. Naruto said to Sasuke, should I find him in advance and beat him until he can't take care of himself, and then he won't be able to participate in the competition? Kakashi complained. Where did your strong confidence come from that you can defeat Hinata Ninji? Hinata Ninji is a famous genius of this generation of the Hyuga clan. Naruto complained. A famous genius of this generation? Isn't that a big exaggeration? There are only 3 people in this generation of the Hyuga clan? What's so great about that? One of them is Hinata's 5-year-old little sister. Hinata wondered. You know Hanabi? Hanabi is very strong, at least stronger than me. Naruto exonerated Hinata. You are just too kind. If one day you can change your character, believe me, they will all be scum. Naruto's shout, in addition to provoking Hinata Ninji, also had a little other effect. For example, it also woke up the staff who were in shock. So the names of Sark and my love on the screen disappeared, and were replaced with new names in a flash. Akimichi Dingji versus Tooth Inuzuka. Naruto sighed with some sadness. Sigh, no matter which of these 2 people is handed to Hinata, it will be good. Then he turned to Sasuke and said, do you want to bet on this one? As for the prize, I haven't thought about it yet, you can know it first. Sasuke looked at the 2 people who entered the arena. Kiba Inuzuka had an aggressive look. He had a small white dog with him. Guessing that it was a ninja dog. Dingji strong, with a belly as big as Two-Tooth Inuzuka. However, Dingji didn't seem to be in a good state, and his footsteps were a little weak. It was a sharp contrast with Tooth Inuzuka on the other side. Sasuke thought for a moment. Tooth Inuzuka. Naruto said with a weird smile. Don't hesitate to buy it. Sasuke nodded. Hee. Naruto smiled strangely, and then said, then I'll bet on Dingji. Then, in the shocked eyes of everyone, Naruto shouted to Ninji in the audience, hey, Dingji, if you win, I'll treat you to barbecue for a week. In an instant, Choji Akimichi, who had been listless, suddenly burst into fanaticism. He stared at Naruto in the stands and said, are you serious? Naruto revealed his shining white teeth and made a Metkei expression, giving a thumbs up, more real than real gold. Good. For a week's worth of barbecue, I'll win. Dingji was burning. Sasuke's face darkened and his face twitched. A week's worth of barbecue? Is our bet that big? Naruto smiled. The wool comes from the sheep's body. Since we haven't set the bet, I might let you pay for it. Sasuke's face darkened. Chapter 99. The 5th match, Akimichi Dingji versus Tooth Inuzuka. At this moment, Tooth Inuzuka's liver was hurting the most. Originally, he was full of confidence, but Naruto messed it up. Tooth Inuzuka looked at Akimichi Dingji, who was in a burning state, and couldn't help but swallow. He squatted down and rubbed Akamaru's head. Akamaru, we must win. Then we will teach that guy Naruto a lesson. Akamaru's angry face. Woof. Tooth Inuzuka thought for a moment and took out the soldier food pill. Just to be on the safe side, he decided to give it to Akamaru at the beginning of the match. After eating the soldier food pill, Akamaru suddenly grew a lot, and the color of his hair turned red. Dingji's chubby face squinted as he looked at Tooth Inuzuka giving Akamaru the soldier food pill. He took out one that he had been reluctant to eat, and swallowed it into his stomach. Soldier food pill, a strategic resource of ninja. It is rich in protein, easy to absorb, and can also play an exciting and calming role. At the same time, It can also activate the body and double the speed of the body's chakra production. The match hasn't officially started yet, but the field is already filled with a murderous aura. Today's match, interesting, Moonlight Rush said. Contestants Akimichi Dingji and Tooth Inuzuka, do you have any objections? Tooth Inuzuka took a deep breath and was ready to fight. No objections. Dingji squinted his small eyes. No objections. After getting the confirmation, Moonlight Rush stepped back. Then let the match begin. Tooth Inuzuka squatted down and made a hand seal. Come on, Akamaru. Akamaru, whose hair turned red, jumped on Tooth Inuzuka's back. Tooth Inuzuka. Beast-like ninjutsu. Akamaru. Woof. Anthropomorphic ninjutsu. Beastman clone. Tooth Inuzuka pressed his hands on the ground and lay on his stomach like a wild beast. At the same time, Akamaru, who was lying on Tooth Inuzuka's back, turned into Tooth Inuzuka. Roar. I'm coming. Four-legged technique. Tooth Inuzuka and Akamaru, who turned into Tooth Inuzuka, moved synchronously and rushed toward Dingji like a beast. His speed was extremely fast. At this critical moment, Dingji Akimichi leaned back and dodged the attack. Akimichi Dingji, who was lying on the ground, also began to form hand seals. Ninjutsu, multiplication technique. In an instant, Dingji's body expanded 3 times like a balloon. He looked like a sturdy meatball. Then its limbs and head shrank into a ball of flesh. Meat tank. The meatball rolled, and the force was so strong that the 2-meter square tiles on the ground began to shake and shatter. Tooth Inuzuka did not dodge and roared. Beastman body technique. Tooth and Tooth. The Tooth Inuzuka's body spun like 2 tornadoes and rushed toward the rolling meatball. Boom. The huge impact caused the tiles to crack everywhere. The power released by the 2 crushed the 4 sides, and smoke and dust flew. Who won? The smoke and dust blocked the view, and everyone was looking forward to it. In the stands, Naruto said confidently, "There's no need to look, Dingji must have won." Tooth Inuzuka's Beastman body technique seems to be the same thing, but Tooth Inuzuka is better at guerrilla warfare than head-on. On the contrary, Dingji's body is heavy, and he's good at fierce attacks, but he's not as flexible as Tooth Inuzuka. If Tooth Inuzuka changed to guerrilla tactics, there may be some accidents, but now it won't happen. Coupled with the temptation of a week of barbecue, Dingji's attack power has definitely reached the limit of his current stage. And because of the second exam, this guy has been hungry for 3 days. The temptation of food to him is unparalleled. Sasuke's face twitched, and he glanced at Naruto with Kakashi's dead fish eyes. I've been schemed against by you, but this time you should have offended Tooth Inuzuka. In the future, that guy will come looking for trouble. Naruto said indifferently. Do you think I'm afraid? Besides, in the Forest of Death, I found several kinds of plants that are very tempting to ninja beasts. When the time comes, I'll make a special dog food and give it to Tooth Inuzuka. Tooth Inuzuka shouldn't come looking for trouble with me anymore. Instead, he'll chase me for the recipe. Hearing this sentence, the corner of Sasuke's mouth twitched again. After a while, the smoke and dust dissipated. Sure enough, as Naruto guessed, Dingji was still standing, while Tooth Inuzuka and Akamaru had already fallen. Dingji narrowed his small eyes and waved at Naruto. You said a week of barbecue. Does that count? Naruto replied. Of course it counts. Don't worry, I'll take care of the barbecue for the next week. Dingji was overjoyed. Good, I'll be friends with you. Also, thank you for today's competition. Naruto smiled brightly. It's nothing, but I'm lucky to have such a strong friend like you. After the conversation ended, the 2 sides bid farewell. Dingji walked back to his team. Unlike other people who jumped on the high platform, he walked up the stairs step by step. Because he walked very slowly, it looked like he was walking very seriously, which made him look charmingly naive. Naruto bragged to Sasuke, I feel like my popularity has increased by a lot. Sasuke couldn't help but feel hurt. You're not worried about Hinata anymore? What if in the next competition? Naruto glared at him. If you dare jinx it, I'll double your bet. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Naruto said confidently, Did you forget what the referee said at the beginning of the competition? He said that the competition will give priority to matching ninjas of the same gender together. Hinata is a girl. And there are also girls like Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, and Tian Tian. These people didn't participate in the competition, so Hinata will most likely be matched with them. Sasuke looked at the screen and said, "The probability you mentioned is decreasing." Naruto suddenly turned his head and saw two names on the screen. Tian Tian versus Sakura Haruno. Naruto glared at Sasuke. Jinx. Sasuke said disdainfully, "I didn't say anything, but do you want to bet on this?" Naruto sighed. "What's there to bet on? Tian Tian will definitely win." Sakura Haruno was probably the weakest ninja in the competition right now. She only knew the 3-body jutsu, some medical ninjutsu, and could barely throw darts. Other than that, she didn't have any special skills, however. Sakura Haruno's cherry red hair was quite beautiful. It was a pity that her beautiful hair didn't increase her combat strength. Naruto didn't watch the competition and turned his back. Sasuke said in surprise, "You don't want to see her get beaten up?" Then he glanced at Hinata with a gossipy expression. How could this change escape Naruto's eyes? He sneered. "When did you become so gossipy? And it's not like you don't know that the girl has always liked you. Don't you care? Maybe if you give her a boost, she'll be able to instantly get rid of her opponent." Naruto turned his back because he felt a little guilty in his heart. Sasuke also turned his back. That will only make her suffer more because she won't admit defeat. Kakashi glanced at his two disciples, and inexplicably found that they were both masters of love. As a teacher, wasn't he too weak compared to them? Should he find a girlfriend as soon as possible? Naruto's medical ninjutsu teacher, Hanakazuki, seemed not bad. Chapter 100. Tian Tian versus Sakura Haruno. On the stage, Sakura Haruno looked at the two figures in the stands with a forlorn expression. The gap between her and the two of them was so wide that it was almost impossible for her to catch up. For a moment, Sakura Haruno felt like crying. "Sakura-chan, good luck." The sudden cheering caused Sakura Haruno's heart to skip a beat. Who was cheering for her? Sakura Haruno looked over and saw two thick eyebrows, drooping eyelashes, and a green skin-tight suit. Sakura Haruno felt like her sadness had been petrified by this cheer. Shaoli, that idiot. Why would you cheer for your teammate when they're on the stage? Tian Tian complained as he unfurled his scroll. Dozens of shurikens rained down on Sakura Haruno. Ding, ding. She blocked two of the attacks, but as for the rest, Sakura Haruno despaired. Her body leaned back and she slipped. "It's over. I really am the worst." Sakura Haruno could already see herself being turned into a hornet's nest. But at this moment, a net of steel wires appeared and blocked the attacks. Tian Tian stood in front of Sakura Haruno and said calmly, "Surrender. You're too weak right now. I trained for an entire year before taking the Chunin exam. I believe that you'll definitely be able to pass the Chunin exam next year, but not yet." In the stands, Naruto whispered, "Aren't you going to comfort her after the match? Or encourage her? No matter what, she's still your classmate." Sasuke mocked, "Aren't you her classmate?" Naruto sighed. "She's such a good girl. I heard someone cheering for her just now." Sasuke was rendered speechless. It wasn't until Sakura Haruno left that the two of them finally turned around. At this moment, Naruto noticed that Hinata was starting to get nervous, so he comforted her. "It's okay. I think you'll meet Ino. If you meet her, don't give her a chance to use her ninjutsu. Just use the 8 trigrams 64 palms. She won't be able to handle it. Trust me, you're much stronger than your peers. If you're still nervous, take deep breaths with me. Come, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe, breathe." Hinata followed Naruto's rhythm and laughed happily, said, "I'm much better now. Thank you, Naruto-kun." Laughed, laugh, laugh. Kakashi's dead fish eyes glanced over, then silently turned away. What a load of pineapple. If one day his disciple got married and had a child, and he was still single, wouldn't that be too unlucky? 7th match, Lee Locke versus Shino Yomi. Naruto was a little disappointed. I thought it would be Lee Locke versus Hinata Ninji. That would be fun. But thinking about it, it was impossible at this stage. The two of them would be in the same team. According to the screening conditions of the system, it was impossible to put people in the same class together. The contestants began to enter the arena. Sasuke also looked over and asked curiously, "Lilac? Is he strong?" How could someone who could open 5 of the 8 inner hidden gates with perseverance not be strong? Naruto had only opened 1 so far. Although Naruto felt that he could forcefully open 2 or 3 gates with perseverance, Naruto didn't think that he would have any good results. So he decided to strictly follow the instructions on the scroll, and train his body to a certain strength before opening them. But Lilac's 8 inner hidden gates hadn't been exposed yet, so Naruto didn't say anything. He vaguely said, "My intuition tells me that he's not simple. Besides, did you notice? The way he walks is a bit like me?" After praising others, he mentioned himself? How narcissistic was he? However, Sasuke seriously observed and said with surprise, "His footsteps seem light, but the rhythm of his movements is obviously different from ordinary people. It's a bit like you. Could it be he also has a weight on his body like you?" Naruto nodded and said, "It's more, not less." Sasuke then asked, "How much weight do you carry?" Naruto grinned and said, "It's a secret. You can guess for yourself." Sasuke, Moonlight Rush stood between the two and confirmed, "Contestants Lilac and Shino-Yomi, do you have any objections?" Lilac showed his shining teeth and confidently gave a thumbs up. "I'm ready to release my youth." Moonlight Rush. This wasn't the answer he wanted to hear. He only wanted to hear yes or no objections. But after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. Who told this guy to be that person's disciple? Like master, like disciple. If the master was so jumpy, then the disciple would be the same. Moonlight Rush looked to the other side. Shino-Yomi raised his hand and adjusted his sunglasses. No objections. Moonlight Rush heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to Lilac, Shino-Yomi and his appetite were much better. Then let the competition begin. Shino-Yomi raised his hands. Insects swarmed out of his wide sleeves. In Naruto's eyes it looked extraordinary, but in the eyes of the girls, it was a different scene. Especially for those with trypophobia, it was definitely a visual impact. In the stands, Naruto said eagerly, "Sasuke, do you want to bet?" Sasuke hesitated. He knew Naruto too well. This guy was most likely going to trick him again. Naruto laughed heartily. "You can choose first." Sasuke pursed his lips. Last time, in the match between Tooth Inuzuka and Dingy, Naruto had also let him choose first. In the end, this guy set a trap for him and yelled at him. Not only did that shout arouse Dingy's fighting spirit, but it also angered Tooth Inuzuka, causing Tooth Inuzuka to fight Dingy head-on. This time, what kind of trick does this guy have up his sleeve? First, he told me to pay attention to Lilac. Then he let me choose first. Does he want me to choose Lilac? Or is he deliberately trying to confuse me so that I won't choose Lilac? Forget it. Let's not analyze this guy. Let's see with my own eyes. In the next moment, Sasuke opened his Sharingan. Two-Tomo Sharingan. Two-Tomo rotating symmetrically with the pupil as the center, scarlet eyes, black lines, and the pupils are dark and deep, with a special sense of beauty in the midst of bewitching. Under the vision of Sharingan, he saw Shino-Yomi's insects crawling around to devour Lilac's chakra. Most of Lilac's chakra gathered at the bottom of his feet, and like Naruto, they spread out like a net on the ground. In this way, the pressure on the ground is evenly distributed. Insects that can devour Chakra's chakra. Interesting. After a long time, Lilac should be at a disadvantage. On the field, Lilac used Taijutsu with Leaf Whirlwind to attack Shino-Yomi, but it was blocked by Shino-Yomi's insect defense. On the other hand, Lilac's Taijutsu was very straightforward. There was no sloppiness in his movements. It can be seen that he is a person who specializes in Taijutsu. Under the dynamic vision, Sasuke saw Lilac's every movement. Naruto urged, "You wouldn't be so shameless as to wait for the results of the competition to come out, right? That's not the Sasuke I know." Sasuke turned off his Sharingan and replied, "That's the you I know." Naruto rolled his eyes and urged, "My brain is filled with wisdom. Those who insult wisdom will be spurned by the goddess of wisdom and become idiots. Sasuke admitted that he had never won when arguing with Naruto, because no matter what you said to him, he would always have a bunch of fallacious arguments waiting for you. Therefore, Sasuke wisely chose not to continue arguing with Naruto. I choose Shino-Yomi, but for the fairness of the competition, you are not allowed to shout loudly or secretly affect the competition in other ways. Naruto smiled and said generously, I promise I won't do anything. Don't worry, I'm not so awesome as to let whoever I want win. Since you choose Shino-Yomi, I'll choose Lilock. That bet. Also keep it, I don't know what to bet. Sasuke said. If I win, then the previous bet will be cancelled out. Treating Dingy to barbecued meat for a week was too expensive. Sasuke didn't want his finances to go into the red. Naruto nodded and replied, Of course. Kakashi glanced at the two people who made the bet and said to Hinata, Hinata, why don't we bet too? Those two people don't want to play with us. Hinata made a prompt decision and said, Then I'll bet the same as Naruto-kun. Kakashi tilted his head and asked, Why? Hinata said seriously, Because Naruto-kun is betting. What a strong reason. Kakashi found himself speechless. Moreover, he felt like his mouth was stuffed with dog food. There was one more thing that Hinata didn't say, because Naruto-kun had never lost a bet, except for the first round. And in the first round he obviously let Sasuke win. Naruto-kun was comforting Sasuke, who was very depressed. Naruto-kun was too considerate. Chapter 101. Lilock vs Shino-Yomi. This was a match between two people who didn't have any good looks and relied solely on their strength. Men. Shaoli, with his melon shawl, thick eyebrows, round eyes, drooping eyelashes, and a green bodysuit that made the girls despair. Shino-Yomi, with his cabbage hair, black sunglasses, white collar that covered 2/3 of his face, and a dense swarm of little black bugs that made the girls despair. 5 minutes into the match, the stage began to show signs of damage, mainly caused by Lilock. Every step Lilock took, the ground would crack. His attacks seemed to be getting stronger and stronger? Hinata asked from the stands. Naruto frowned. No, sigh this idiot. Hinata, activate your Byakugan and see. Hinata activated her Byakugan and saw the situation under Shaoli's feet. Intermittent, or rather fragmented chakra pull net. There was also the little black bug that was happily eating the chakra. This is, Naruto explained, this guy has weights on his body like me, so he has to spread the chakra net under his feet like he's walking on water to support himself. Otherwise, his body will sink into the ground with every step. Right now, the enemy's bugs are constantly eating the chakra net that's supporting this guy's body. So it looks like Shaoli's attacks are increasing, but in reality, the chakra net is about to be completely devoured by the enemy. Naruto's face was filled with despair. This Shaoli wouldn't be digging his own grave, would he? That would be too slippery, Hinata asked curiously. Then why didn't he remove the weights? Naruto looked at Hinata and said seriously, I also want to know. According to his agreement with Sasuke, he could not use any means to influence the game, so he could not directly remind Shaoli to remove the weights. Someone who could relieve Shaoli of his burden. Naruto looked in Mekkai's direction. Mekkai sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, and fell asleep. At the same time, Lilock was also looking at the spectator stands. When he jumped up, he also saw that Kai-sensei had fallen asleep. Shaoli's eyes lit up, and flames began to burn inexplicably. Kai-sensei must have thought that this match was nothing to me. So he fell asleep. In order to live up to teacher's trust, I will definitely win. 80% of the people present couldn't understand what Shaoli was talking to himself. However, none of this was important. What was important was that this match looked very intense to outsiders. The only downside was that it caused too much damage to the arena. Shaoli charged at Shino-Yomi. Shino-Yomi was surrounded by a black swarm of insects that spun around Shino-Yomi at high speed. This was Shino-Yomi's defense. With Leaf Whirlwind, Shaoli's leg swept out. It seemed like a powerful blow when it hit the shield formed by the insects, but it felt like it had hit a sponge or hit nothing. There was no obvious damage. In the stands, Naruto was very anxious. Why didn't you open 8 gates? Aren't you the beautiful wood-leaf azure beast? Do you think your opponent isn't strong enough for you to open 8 gates? Or do you need Kai's orders? Naruto looked at Metke again. Metke was sleeping soundly. Wait. Where's Teacher Kakashi? Where's Teacher Kakashi? Naruto asked. Sasuke raised his head and looked behind him. He replied casually, went to the bathroom. Naruto looked at Hinata. Hinata blinked. Maybe. I'm not sure. Kai was asleep, and Kakashi was gone. Could it be that Kai's sleeping had something to do with Kakashi? That's not right. Why would Kakashi let Kai fall asleep? Was it because Kakashi made a bet with Hinata? Hinata bet on Lee Lock, so Kakashi bet on Shinoyomi? No. Kakashi didn't know that Shaoli knew the Hashman Tanku, nor did he know that the weights could only be lifted by Kai's orders. It couldn't be. Was it related to Orochimaru? Was it related? Naruto shook his head. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. At this moment, Kakashi returned. Naruto asked Kakashi, Kakashi-sensei, where did you go? Kakashi gave him a dead fish look. Do I have to report to you when I go to the bathroom? How's the competition going? He looked at the competition as he spoke. He saw that the guy he bet on was in good condition, while the other guy was already panting. He muttered, Naruto, your eyesight isn't very good. The guy you bet on is about to die. Naruto's mouth twitched. Someone who could open 5 gates. Even if the opponent was Kakashi, Shaoli would still be able to injure Kakashi, right? But who told this idiot not to open the gate? Kakashi-sensei. How did Kai-sensei fall asleep? Kakashi looked at Guy with his dead fish eyes and said as if nothing had happened. Oh, that guy. I wanted to go to the bathroom just now, but that guy blocked my way and kept talking to me, so I directly used genjutsu to make him fall asleep. Naruto vomited blood. That's possible? Naruto complained. Kai-sensei is very strong, right? What kind of genjutsu can make him fall asleep? Kakashi nodded as if nothing had happened. That's why I directly used Sharingan. Naruto vomited blood again. Could he still be saved? At this moment, Kakashi asked an even more heart-wrenching question. Why didn't Guy's student remove the weight? Vomiting blood 3 times in a row. Naruto also wanted to know. Then Kakashi didn't care. It's the same whether you remove it or not. Anyway, the weight will have a little effect, but only a little. Naruto really wanted to see Kakashi's dumbfounded expression when Shaoli removed the weight on his body. Sasuke calmly said, that Lee Lock's chakra is about to be eaten up by the insects. The match is about to end, so it looks like I won this match. Vomiting blood 4 times in a row? Naruto said he had no more blood to vomit. His HP bar was empty, and his taunt was gone. It was obviously a match that couldn't be any more stable. So how did it turn out like this? Naruto closed his eyes as if there was nothing left to live for. Shaoli courted death like this. It looks like he lost. At this moment, there was an exclamation from the audience. Naruto closed his eyes, thinking that the match should be over. Shaoli had succeeded in courting death, and he had also wasted a chance to trick Sasuke. But below the stage, Moonlight Rush announced Lee Lock wins. Then he heard Moonlight Rush shouting something about lifting his leg. Naruto suddenly opened his eyes and saw the funniest scene in the world so far. Shaoli and Shinoyomi were both lying on the ground. And then, Shaoli's leg was pressed against Shinoyomi's stomach, and Shinoyomi vomited blood from the pressure. F***ck. That works too? Naruto couldn't help but curse. At the same time, Sasuke and Kakashi also looked like they had eaten shit. Only Hinata celebrated heartlessly. Yay! Naruto, we won the bet. They won the bet. That's right, they won the bet. But the way they won was really ingenious. Heavens! Lift your leg. You'll die if you keep pressing down. F***ck. You're crushing him. Lift it up. Quick. Stretcher. The venue was bustling with activity. There were only 2 matches left in the preliminaries. Chapter 103. The last 2 matches. The last 4 contestants. Hinata Ninji, Hinata, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka. 2 men and 2 women. One of the teams was in the same group. Therefore, as long as the selection system didn't cramp, there wouldn't be a match between Hinata Ninji and Hinata, or a match between Shikamaru Nara and Ino Yamanaka. On the field, Shaoli lifted his heavy foot. Shino Yomi, who was vomiting blood from the pressure, was carried away by the doctors on a hard wooden stretcher. According to visual inspection, Shino Yomi's ribs were fractured in many places. After Shino Yomi was carried away, Shaoli, who was in a sorry state, pretended to be relaxed and said, "What an easy win." Everyone was silent. Then they saw Lee Locke, who had transformed into a destructive maniac, step by step, crushing countless stone bricks along the way. Wherever he went, he destroyed everything. He looked like a monster in human form. Moonlight Rush couldn't stand it anymore and reminded him, "Lee Locke, the match is over." Lee Locke raised his head proudly and replied, "Yes, that was a hot-blooded match." Moonlight Rush's eyes twitched and he roared, "What I mean is, can you not vent your anger on the field?" After roaring, Moonlight's body began to cough violently. Shaoli looked at Moonlight Rush worriedly and thought, "What a worrying body." Then he scratched his head and explained, "That? I don't want to, but my chakra is not in the right state. But I can try to minimize the damage." With that, Shaoli jumped up and landed on the 2-meter-high fence like a cannonball. If it were any other time, he would have left the stage in a carefree manner. After all, both Naruto and Sasuke left the stage in such a handsome posture. However, Shaoli's chakra was at a critical point and was unable to open the chakra net to support his body. Thus, it was a tragedy. The 30-centimeter thick platform made of reinforced concrete didn't even hold up for a second when Shaoli smashed down. 2 holes were directly stomped into it. Shaoli landed in a horse stance and with a whoosh, the cement was trampled through. After his body fell, Shaoli was stuck. Ouch! Shaoli's face instantly turned red. In an instant, Shaoli's self-preservation instincts made him use his hands to support himself on the ground as fast as he could to pull himself out. However, if he used too much force, the result would be that he would be reflected back at a speed faster than when he flew up. In the eyes of an outsider, it was like a basketball hitting a basket and bouncing back with a bang. He fell to the ground and curled up like a shrimp while hugging his crotch. At the same time, the stands were directly smashed by Shaoli's palm strike. Metke, who was originally sleeping soundly, fell from the sky after the stands collapsed. He was then buried in a pile of rubble. The speechlessness of the scene was difficult to describe in detail. On the other side of the stands, Kakashi's team was almost implicated. Naruto subconsciously touched his crotch and sighed. That must have hurt. How much weight did Shaoli's legs carry? Then how strong was the attack that Egi faced just now? Kakashi sighed. I'm more emotional about Guy. His student actually watched him get buried by rubble. Guy's student? Other than Lee Locke, who was curled up like a shrimp, there was also Hinata Ninji and Tian. At this time, the 2 of them were standing on the wall, safely avoiding the disaster. Naruto said straightforwardly, "If it was you, it would be about the same, ZZ." Lightning flashed. Naruto cleverly hid behind Sasuke. Did he dodge it? Strictly speaking, Sasuke was held in Naruto's hands to block Kakashi's electric shock. Sasuke was silent. When he was thinking about whether to add another electric shock to Naruto, Naruto said flatteringly, "I was also forced. If that method is exposed now, people will be prepared. You too." Naruto's meaning was that he didn't use Ice Escape because he wanted to preserve his trump card. "If you electrocuted me, your lightning escape would be exposed." Sasuke was silent. His face was dark as he said seriously, "Then put me down first." Sasuke was held in his hands like a shield. Naruto. Heh, he. Then he put Sasuke back in his proper place. Naruto immediately changed the topic. "But you have to thank me. The reason why Shaoli's destruction didn't affect this place is mainly because of the chakra net under my feet protecting this territory." Sasuke also learned bad things from Naruto. He complained, "Territory? Can I understand it as a puppy taking over a street?" Naruto shook his head. "No, you can understand it as a lion leaving a noble scratch on the wall to declare that I am the big brother of this city." If this topic continued, Sasuke felt that his IQ would be lowered, and then he would be defeated by the other party's rich experience. So he changed the topic at the right time. That guy looks like he's in pain, and no medical ninjas came over. You know medical ninjutsu, so why don't you go and treat him? Naruto said seriously. Shaoli's brother should be protected by himself. I don't have the habit of protecting other people's brothers. But although you said that, you must be happy in your heart, right? When Lee Lock hit on Sakura Haruno just now, he must have pissed you off. Now he's retribution, right? Sasuke rolled his eyes. Don't measure me with your thoughts. I'm not as bad as you, Naruto said in disbelief. Is that so? Then why did you bet on Shinoyomi just now? With your eyesight, it shouldn't be difficult for you to see that Shaoli is actually very strong. Sasuke raised his eyebrows. Is that why you bet with me? Naruto laughed and said. How could that be? Ha 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 ha. Naruto's proud look completely betrayed his thoughts. After the Shaoli incident, the 8th match was finally about to begin. The screen flashed, and just when Naruto thought that the system was broken, 2 names finally flashed. Hinata Ninji vs Shikamaru Nara. So the next 9th match's name list has been confirmed. Hinata's opponent will be Ino Yamanaka. Naruto turned to Hinata and smiled. I'm right, your opponent is Ino Yamanaka. Hinata nodded and said, yes, Naruto-kun is the smartest. Naruto had always enjoyed Hinata's praise. The only flaw was that if Hinata could stand on her tiptoes and give him a kiss. Yes, the current Hinata shouldn't be able to do that. Slowly nurture. Hinata Ninji and Shikamaru Nara entered the arena. One of them was spotless, his long hair fluttering in the wind, his demeanor outstanding. This was Hinata Ninji. The other was covered in dirt, his clothes were tattered, and his face was weak. It could be seen that in the second match, Shikamaru Nara was in a bit of a difficult situation. However, the arena was currently in ruins, with broken rocks everywhere. It was very suitable for Shikamaru Nara to perform. Who would win and who would lose? It was really hard to determine. If Shikamaru Nara's shadow imitation technique could trap Hinata Ninji, this match, just as Naruto was calculating the chances of winning. Hey, Naruto, come over and help me. Naruto raised his head and looked in the direction of the voice. Tian was calling him. Naruto, what's the matter? I feel like this play can be seen as what's the matter? Tian shouted. Shaoli's injuries seem to be quite serious. Come over and help treat him. Shaoli's younger brother? Naruto blinked and said, don't you know medical ninjutsu too? Tian glared at him. I'm not as good as you. Naruto joked. Yo, you finally admit that you're not as good as me? Tian urged. Are you going to help or not? Naruto rolled his eyes. Don't we still have medical ninjutsu? Tian continued to glare. Shinoyomi's injuries are serious, and there are many injured people today. We don't have enough medical ninjutsu. Hurry up. Not enough people? Woodleaf didn't have enough medical ninjutsu to begin with, although it seemed that they had transferred a lot of them today. But first, Chin Chue was seriously injured by Han Bao, Zack was seriously injured by My Love, Tooth Inuzuka and his Akamaru were also seriously injured, and then Shinoyomi. It could be said that the medical ninjutsu should be very busy right now. Multiple shadow clone technique. Naruto ordered the clone with a dark face. Go and help Shaoli treat Shaoli. Then you don't have to come back, just remove it on the spot. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.